In a grand universe, countless stars glitter across vast and colorful cosmic clouds. But within this expanse lies an endless void, where a brilliant explosion of energy pierces the deep darkness. This universe is home to every imaginable being, from powerful sorcerers and grim reapers to advanced robots and dragons. Among the countless worlds, there is a desolate, fiery planet that can only be described as hell. This place houses the worst prison in history, a massive, high-security fortress designed for containment. Known as the Solitude of Kreisman, it holds the most fearsome and dangerous criminals from across the cosmos. Inside one of its cells, a small scorpion-like creature scurries across the cold, metallic floor. A large hand suddenly swoops down and snatches the tiny creature, lifting it from the ground. The hand belongs to a prisoner with long white hair, who sits alone in the bleakness of his cell. The blindfolded man calmly brings the creature to his mouth, treating it as a simple meal. He chews on it for a moment, simply noting its bitter taste with a stoic expression. The prisoner sits quietly in his containment unit, illuminated only by a faint light from above. He then settles into a cross-legged position, maintaining his calm composure in the silent cell. Suddenly, a bright light pierces the darkness as a slot in the massive door illuminates. The heavy door slides open, flooding the small room with a brilliant, particle-filled light. A guard stands waiting as the prisoner floats up, wondering if a month has already passed. The guard leads him out of the cell and into a vast, deep shaft lined with machinery. The blindfolded man stands silently beside the armored guard, ready to be escorted. They both look up at the towering, complex walls of the high-tech prison. The prison's interior is a dizzying maze of floating platforms and advanced structures. A long, floating staircase materializes, creating a path upward through the vast, mechanical chasm. The blindfolded prisoner walks up the glowing steps with a steady pace, the guard following closely behind. The guard is in disbelief, finding it strange that a prisoner is leading the way without any guidance. He remembers his seniors advising him to simply accept this inmate's odd behavior and not resist it. After all, the prison structure changes every month, making any attempt to predict the layout useless. This leaves the guard completely baffled as to how the old man could possibly know the correct path. He watches the inmate's back with a mix of suspicion and awe, unable to comprehend the situation. The prisoner turns and casually tells the guard to be careful on his way back, while the guard just tells him to get in. Once the transfer is complete, the guard reports to his superiors and requests his current coordinates. The white-haired man named Kun now stands in a massive hall filled with countless other prisoners. He calmly surveys the large area, estimating its size to be approximately 650 square meters. Immediately, a group of inmates notices the newcomer, pointing out that he looks like an old man. Another, tougher-looking group smirks, thinking they won't need to use any flashy moves on him. The other inmates are relieved, thinking that he is just an ordinary old man and not another weirdo. This section of the prison, known as Solitude, holds the lowest-tier inmates, who are categorized by class. Kun sniffs the air, sensing that all the inmates around him are bottom of the barrel, second class at best. He kneels on the ground as a robotic figure walks past him, taking in the atmosphere of the place. However, he detects a special scent among the crowd, something that catches his attention. Just then, a bright light descends from above, and all the prisoners start shouting about food arriving. The old man watches the scene unfold, quietly wondering when he last had a real meal. The inmates stare at the descending meal with hungry eyes, murmuring that it is real food this time. They gather around a large, steaming cauldron, hoping for something edible to finally arrive. One prisoner groans, realizing it is magged-up porridge again, but another tells him to eat it or starve. The man with the scar rushes forward anyway, determined to get at least one bite of the disgusting meal. However, a massive pig-like inmate named Tommy steps in his way, declaring that he eats first. The other prisoners complain quietly, wondering how long the stronger inmates will hog all the food. As Tommy and his group eat, the rest can only hope that there will be some leftovers for them. Nearby, a small boy tells his larger companion he is hungry, and the young man tells him to hold on. A different group complains about the awful taste, but agrees that it is still better than nothing. The muscular young man watches the stronger inmates with a serious expression, his gaze fixed on them. Just then, Kun starts walking toward the food, but one of the bullies tells the old geezer to stop. The blindfolded man calmly states that he only wants one bowl, asking for a little respect for the elderly. A large man with a mustache confronts him, asking if he is unaware of the rules for getting food. He looks down at the old man, questioning if he is senile or just trying to cause problems. When Kun keeps walking, the man grabs his shoulder, angrily asking if he is even listening to him. The bully calls him a bandaged freak as a strange aura starts to radiate from the old prisoner. He mockingly asks how a blind man could have possibly sniffed his way over to the meal. In a flash, Kun moves with unbelievable speed, his form becoming a blur to everyone watching. The large bully is suddenly sent flying backward, screaming in agony about his eyes. The blindfolded man had struck him with pinpoint accuracy, disabling him in a single, swift motion. Kun warns the others not to touch his eyes as the injured bully falls, defeated and bleeding. The muscular youth and the small boy look on in complete shock at the old man's sudden display of power. Even Tommy, the pig-like brute, stops eating and stares, surprised by the newcomer's skill. Enraged, Tommy orders his gang to bring the old man to him, wanting to deal with him personally. Kun stands tall and sniffs the air again, unfazed by the growing crowd of hostile inmates. Meanwhile, in a control room, a high-ranking officer asks a guard what the old man just did. The guard reveals that the prisoner had just endured 30 days of solitary confinement, the harshest penalty. The officer seems unimpressed, noting that hundreds of inmates die every day in the prison. He then explains that a single cell in the facility can hold several hundred people at once. As he speaks, he signs a document, implying that the old man is far more dangerous than he appears. It is revealed that Kun had single-handedly killed every single inmate in his previous cell. Back in the common area, the prisoners are in an uproar, surrounding the blindfolded man with weapons. Kun effortlessly dodges and weaves through his attackers, countering their strikes with deadly precision. He moves like a whirlwind of destruction, cutting down his opponents with a hidden blade. Back in the office, the commander explains that while it sounds unbelievable, the report is 100% true. In just one night, the old man had killed a total of 241 people, leaving no survivors. The other inmates can only watch in horror, unable to comprehend the old man's true strength. The commander continues, adding another interesting fact about the prisoner known as Kun. He reminds the guard that every inmate in solitude receives a serial number upon entry. With a sinister smile, he asks if the guard remembers what that old man's specific number is. The guard recalls his interaction with the prisoner, remembering him only as number 51. The commander smirks, telling the guard that while he might be new, the inmate is infamous. The old man, whose true name is Argelastus, stands over the defeated pig man Tommy. All the other inmates can only stare in absolute shock, unable to comprehend what just happened. They murmur amongst themselves, questioning how a seemingly frail old man could do all of that. Argel calmly sniffs the air as the beaten and bloodied Tommy kneels before him, utterly defeated. The muscular young man sweats, still trying to figure out the true identity of the mysterious elder. With a menacing red aura, Argel's presence fills the hall, and a young boy realizes he is here. The child looks on with wide, terrified eyes, understanding the danger this man represents. Blood splatters across the old warrior's face, yet his expression remains completely unreadable. Dozens of inmates lie on the ground, completely wiped out without putting up a real fight. The onlookers find it unbelievable that all of them were taken down by just one person. However, the crowd soon notices that all the defeated prisoners are still groaning in pain. Tommy breathes heavily, shocked to realize that not a single one of his men is actually dead. He looks up at the mysterious figure, completely humbled and wondering who this old man is. Argel asks if they truly believe that having more people automatically equals strength. He continues that while numbers might work on some, they mean nothing when everyone is so weak. The old warrior then coldly informs Tommy that he probably only has a month or two left to live. He then holds up his unique, spiraled blade, presenting the defeated brute with an offer. Argel tells him that if he wishes to die sooner than that, he should come and find him. After the fight, the inmates line up at the cauldron, their shadows cast long on the rocky floor. Argel scoops up a bowl of the purple porridge, noting that he did not even get this in solitary. He walks away with his meal, his imposing figure causing the other prisoners to instinctively part ways. Everyone eats their portion, and the muscular young man watches Argel from a safe distance. The young man thinks about the harsh reality of solitude, a place where most prisoners do not survive. The prison employs various systems designed to torment the inmates, making survival even harder. Because of these brutal conditions, anyone who manages to survive is someone to be wary of. The youth knows he must be cautious of everyone, especially the mysterious and powerful old man. He recalls Argel's movements during the fight, recognizing that they were anything but ordinary. The boy, Ciro, complains about the nasty taste as his companion decides they must stay away from Argel. Suddenly, the old warrior appears right behind them, startling the muscular young man. The youth grabs Ciro and leaps away in a panic, wondering how the old man got there so quickly. Argel sniffs the air again, his attention clearly focused on the two of them, particularly the boy. The old warrior has detected a special scent, something he has noticed ever since he arrived. He turns his attention to Ciro, his blindfolded gaze fixed on the young, red-eyed boy. Argel reveals that the boy has very special blood, which explains the unique scent he detected. The muscular youth becomes enraged, demanding to know what the old man is talking about. Arjul simply replies that instinct is the only thing that improves when you get as old as him. The young man grits his teeth, his anger and protectiveness towards Zero flaring up. He GT's wide Arjul if he tells anyone, his body glowing with a fierce, red aura. Arjul calmly states that revealing the secret would not benefit him, admitting he just found it entertaining. The young man decides to leave, telling Zero it is time to go, and the boy quietly agrees. He puts a protective arm around Zero as they walk away, leaving the old warrior behind. The other inmates watch the interaction, still wary and confused by the recent events. Suddenly, a massive column of golden light erupts from the ground, catching everyone's attention. An inmate remarks that the prisoners from the quarry must be returning as the light intensifies. A group of large, formidable beastmen emerges from the brilliant light, looking exhausted. A rhino beastman named Manhwa complains about how tired he is after a long day of work. His companion, a bald eagle beastman named Horuk, quickly agrees with his sentiment. A third member of their group, a werebeast named Gork, remains silent with a stern expression. The group then notices the blood splattered all over the floor, wondering what happened while they were gone. Horuk crouches down, noting the large amount of blood, and questioning the sudden chaos after a quiet month. Manhwa becomes enraged, yelling about working all day and demanding to know who made the mess. He furiously orders whoever is responsible to show themselves as the other prisoners watch nervously. Arjul steps forward from the crowd, calmly admitting he caused the commotion and asking if there is a problem. The beastmen are surprised to see an old man, and one mockingly asks if he did all this alone. Manhwa dismisses him as a crazy old man spouting nonsense, clearly underestimating him. The blindfolded warrior stares back at the rhino beastman, his expression firm and unyielding. Manhwa loses his patience, stating he does not have time for jokes and moves to attack Arjul. However, Horuk watches with wide eyes, sensing an immense danger radiating from the old man. Arjul remains completely still, his calm demeanor creating an unsettling tension in the air. Horuk quickly moves to stop his companion, yelling at Manhwa not to attack the old man. The rhino beastman sweats, confused and intimidated by the powerful aura emanating from a mere old man. The eagle beastman pleads with Arjul, promising they will not harm him if he leaves them alone. Arjul agrees, stating he has no business with them, as long as they do not start anything. He then turns and walks away, hoping he can finally live in peace as the beastmen watch him go. Horuk gulps, sweating profusely with a mix of fear and relief after the tense confrontation. Suddenly, a large, glowing holographic symbol appears in the air, signaling a prison-wide announcement. A system voice declares that sleep time is beginning and orders all prisoners to lie flat on their backs. This is the anti-stand system, one of 4 control methods used in solitude, enforced by their collars. The collars activate, increasing gravity and forcing every inmate to lie flat on the ground. Any attempt to resist or rise against the force results in a deadly electric shock called a spark. The prisoners sigh in resignation, knowing they have no choice but to lie down until morning. One inmate complains about the complete control as a small, strange bug scurries across the floor. The bizarre, multi-eyed creature appears to be some kind of parasite, crawling over an inmate's veins. As they lie on the floor, Manhwa calls out to his companion, breaking the enforced silence. He asks Horuk why he stopped him earlier, admitting he did not think the old man looked that strong. The eagle beastman explains that he saw something, leaving his friend confused as they lay among the others. With a look of pure terror, Horuk reveals that he managed to see the old man's prisoner number. He confirms it was number 51, causing Manhwa to react with complete shock and disbelief. Manhwa is stunned, wondering how long the old man could have been imprisoned to have such a low number. Horuk speculates that the old warrior has likely been there since the prison's very foundation. He points out that the number was not marked with a class designation like the other inmates. It was just a plain number without any classification, a sign of his unique status in the prison. Horuk concludes it is best to avoid someone who survived solitude for decades, but Manhwa worries. The rhino beastman thumps the ground in frustration, arguing that the old man might hold a grudge. Suddenly, a strange noise catches their attention, and both beastmen look up in alarm. Screams fill the air as zombie-like inmates begin to viciously attack the others around them. While pinned to the ground by the gravity system, Manhwa asks what is happening. The eagle beastman stares with wide eyes, identifying the terrifying creatures as zombies. Elsewhere, Arjul lies on the ground, simply complaining that the chaotic screaming is too noisy. The helpless inmates are swarmed and bitten, their bodies being torn apart by the undead horde. Annoyed, Arjul wonders if the bug room was opened while he was in solitary confinement. Electricity crackles around his restraints as he clenches his fists, fighting against the system. He forces himself to sit up despite the intense electrical shocks. Surrounded by approaching zombies, the old warrior slowly gets to his feet, stating he is wide awake now as lightning courses through him. Zero and his companion watch in complete astonishment at the man's incredible display of power. The young man struggles against the gravity system, shocked by the sudden appearance of the zombies. He urgently tells Zero to crawl over to a nearby rock for safety, but the boy hesitates in fear. Pushing through the pain, the youth forces himself up, enduring the shocks to protect his young friend. With a determined snarl, the young man prepares to fight, challenging the zombies to bring it on. His body transforms, growing larger and more feral as he curses the approaching undead horde. He leaps into the fray, vowing to take down every last one of the zombies himself. The young warrior tears through the undead, crushing skulls with his newfound strength and ferocity. The beastmen also find themselves under attack, struggling to fight back against the swarming zombies. Menrock roars in frustration, fighting off the undead while still being zapped by the anti-stand system. Horuk desperately fights off the endless waves, realizing that their numbers just keep growing. As beastmen, they can resist the system to some extent, but the weaker prisoners are the real problem. Horuk knows that eventually, all the weaker inmates will be turned into more zombies. Menrock questions why the zombies are unaffected, and Horuk suggests the system does not work on the dead. Just then, an even larger horde of zombies begins to charge toward them from the darkness. The beastmen look on in horror as another wave of the undead rushes to join the fight. The zombies are relentless, their grotesque faces contorted in mindless hunger and aggression. Menrock curses, realizing his stamina is nearly gone due to the constant electrical shocks. Horuk suggests they brace themselves against a rock to conserve energy and hold their ground. The ankle restraints continue to spark with electricity, draining the strength of every living inmate. Suddenly, Argel leaps into the air, surrounded by a maelstrom of crackling blue energy. He descends upon the horde like a thunderbolt, landing right in the middle of the zombie swarm. The old warrior moves with blinding speed, cutting down the undead with ruthless efficiency. The beastmen can only stare in awe, once again shocked by the old man's incredible power. Argel stands amidst the fallen zombies, leaving the remaining inmates completely speechless. He nonchalantly remarks that at least they were not taken down by the vampiric zombies themselves. The beastmen sit on the ground, exhausted and still crackling with electricity from the system. Horuk asks the old man why he helped them, and Argel simply replies he did not want to get annoyed. The eagle beastman understands, realizing that beastmen are much stronger than normal people. If they had turned into zombies, they would have been a huge pain to deal with, so Argel intervened. Just then, they notice that their companion, Gork the Werbeast, has been turned into a zombie. Menrock panics, shouting at Argel that the newly turned zombie is a powerful beastman. Argel calmly faces the zombified Gork, remarking it has been a while since he last fought a werebeast. Without hesitation, the old warrior strikes, plunging his blade deep into the zombie's chest. The zombified werebeast reels back in pain, but quickly retaliates with a ferocious attack. Argel easily dodges, unimpressed by its strength and noting its fast reaction speed. Horuk watches in disbelief, amazed that the old man can fight so effectively. Gork lets out a furious roar and lunges at Argel, his massive fist ready to crush him. The old warrior moves with impossible grace, effortlessly dodging every single one of the zombies' attacks. His feet seem to float above the ground, his movements completely unrestricted by the system. Argel weaves through the werebeast's flurry of punches without being slowed down in the slightest. Horuk is utterly baffled, wondering how the blind man can move like that without even looking. The zombified werebeast suddenly transforms, its power growing several times stronger. It takes on the form of a massive, monstrous were-dog, specifically a ferocious Doberman. Argel calls the werebeast a fool, stating that simply becoming a beastman does not change anything. He effortlessly parries the creature's attack, his movements fluid and precise. The old warrior moves in close, preparing to strike a decisive blow against the transformed zombie. He lands a powerful kick, sending the massive were-dog stumbling backward from the impact. Argel explains that bulking up only creates more openings, a lesson he is about to demonstrate. He moves with lightning speed, striking the were-dog with a devastating attack that ends the fight. Horuk's instincts scream at him, telling him that to survive in solitude, he must follow that man. He watches as Argel stands victorious over the fallen werebeast. Surrounded by crackling energy, Argel turns his attention back to the young man, noting that he is still holding out against the zombies. The defeated werebeast weakly calls out for help as it lies on the ground, its life fading. Menrock desperately calls out to the old man, asking where he is going as he turns to leave. Argel simply leaps away, leaving the beastman and the remaining inmates to fend for themselves. The young warrior struggles to protect Zero, cursing as the zombies continue their relentless assault. The boy, pinned to the ground, points and yells that the old man is over there, fighting. The youth looks up, his eyes widening in shock at the incredible sight before him. Argel is single-handedly fighting off the entire horde of zombies, a whirlwind of death and destruction. The young man stares in disbelief as one of his arms begins to mutate, growing dark and monstrous. Argel continues his assault, effortlessly cutting through the undead with his deadly blade. The youth is stunned, realizing the old man has now taken down that entire horde of zombies too. He can only stare at the aftermath, wondering who in the world that mysterious old man could be. A holographic message appears, announcing that all inmates must rise. The prison system declares the start of the morning roll call. The results are grim, as the floor is littered with the bodies of the fallen. Out of 94 inmates, 80 are now dead, yet Argel sits calmly on a rock. Only 14 survivors remain, a small, battered group standing in the aftermath. The system identifies their location as cell block 1257. Just then, new prisoners begin to arrive. Looking around at the bleak prison, a glowing portal activates, signaling that the cell block's population will be replenished. The newcomers look nervous, taking in the oppressive atmosphere of their new home. One of them wonders aloud what kind of place Solitude Prison truly is. Their confusion turns to horror as they notice the smell and see the corpses. Meanwhile, the survivors are too exhausted to even pay attention to the newcomers. The few remaining inmates quietly return to their own spots in the large hall. The morning roll call ends in a heavy, hollow silence that fills the entire area. The cause of the outbreak is revealed to be a vampiric zombie flea, whose bite is fatal. Argel states that since all the zombies are gone, it should be safe now. He touches his blindfold, a thoughtful expression on his face. The old warrior then stands up and begins to walk away from his resting spot. The other inmates watch in shock, wondering what the old man is doing. They are stunned to see him heading toward an exit, as if the door was unlocked for him. Horik warns the newcomers that if they want to die, they should follow the old man. He explains that everyone who has ever walked through that door never came back. The ground outside the cell block is littered with the bones of those who tried to escape. The Eagle Beastman grimly states that something insane is lurking in the prison hallways. He believes a creature capable of wiping them all out is waiting just beyond the door. Argel walks down the dark corridor, seemingly unconcerned by the potential dangers. He senses that something beyond imagination is waiting for him out there. A small goblin-like creature carrying a large sack then appears before the old warrior. The creature greets him as Master, and Argel says he expected him after hearing the noise. The blindfolded man agrees that it has been a very long time since they last met. He then addresses the small creature by his name, Jacob. Argel asks if a guard told him he was here, and Jacob confirms he paid 5 gold coins for the tip. Jacob complains about the greedy guard, but says the price was small to see his master again. Argel cuts the conversation short, asking if Jacob is here for the usual business. The goblin gets a serious look in his eyes, mentioning that he is sure Argel has heard the news. He then asks about the shift that occurred the day before yesterday. Jacob unrolls a large parchment, asking the old man to draw the new map for him. The shift is shown to be a massive rearrangement of the prison's structure. Because of these constant changes, memorizing any path through the prison is nearly impossible. Jacob thinks to himself that Argel's ability to feel the new layout is truly insane. After a few moments, Argel announces that the map is finished, and Jacob thanks him enthusiastically. The goblin then offers to pull anything the old man needs from his magic bag. Argel thinks for a moment and asks if his companion has any real food. Jacob pulls out a large portion of cooked meat, admitting he is embarrassed to trade it for such a valuable map. He then tells the old warrior that he has some juicy intel for him. Jacob reveals that a summoning is supposed to happen in all the lower cell blocks today. The two sit across from each other as the old man prepares to eat his meal. Argel thanks him for the information, admitting he can never predict when those events will happen. The goblin then nervously asks if those guys have been causing any trouble lately. He is referring to a mysterious, robed group that operates under a strange red symbol. Argel reassures him that it has been quiet and tells him not to worry, so Jacob apologizes for overstepping. With their business concluded, the goblin smiles and says he will take his leave now. Jacob bows and wishes him a safe return, and the old warrior tells him to be careful as well. Argel returns to his cell block, placing a hand on the rusty sign by the door. He quietly says the name Ken, which seems to be written on the plate. The old man realizes Jacob must have been talking about the warden, who placed him in this specific cell. He thinks it might have been for the best, as his health is improving, and he plans to get his reward. Back in the common area, some inmates suddenly start sniffing the air, noticing a new smell. One of them shouts in excitement, realizing it is the smell of meat, and demanding to know where it is coming from. The prisoners quickly spot Argel with his bag of food, shocked to see real meat instead of worm slop. Some of the hungry inmates immediately lunge for the food, but are sent flying back by a powerful blast. Horik steps forward protectively, warning the others not to lay a finger on the old man. Manhwa roars in fury, asking which of them he should beat up first, and the inmates recognize him as a beastman. The other prisoners quickly retreat, leaving Arjul and his small group of allies alone. The old warrior addresses the eagle beastman, who corrects him on the proper pronunciation of his name. Everyone stares at the large pile of steaming cooked ribs, a rare sight in the prison. Menrock drools, asking the master how he managed to get such a delicious meal. Ciro's eyes light up with hunger and excitement, catching his companion by surprise. Arjul dismisses the question, simply telling them all to eat before the food gets cold. After they finish eating, Horik thanks the old warrior for the meal and for his help the day before. The blindfolded man tells him there is nothing to be thankful for, his expression turning grim. He explains that in a place like this, even being alive can eventually become a curse. However, he admits that he could still feel their desperation when they were fighting for their lives. He sits before them, stating that he wants to ask them something about surviving in this hellish place. He then asks the small group of survivors if they truly want to make it out of solitude alive. Manrock immediately replies that of course they do, explaining that it is a natural instinct for survival. Arjul then poses a difficult question, asking if they would still follow that instinct if it begged them to die. He explains that is what isolation does, and he asks them again if they truly want to live. The rhino beastman clenches his fist, declaring that he is not dying pointlessly in a place like this. With a look of determination, also states that he wants to live. Ciro adds that he wants to survive so he can return home and see his father again. Arjul sits before them, his expression unreadable as he processes their resolve. The old warrior thinks about his own 66-year promise that he is determined to fulfill. He knows his time is running out, and having more allies will only increase his chances of success. Having made up his mind, the elder tells the small group to get ready for what is coming. He then reveals that there is going to be a summoning sometime today. Meanwhile, other inmates are tasked with the grim job of clearing away the bodies. One complains about the horrible task, but the other reminds him it is necessary to prevent disease. They sadly conclude that their only crime in this place is being weak. The two look on in horror and disgust at the sheer number of corpses they have to move. A massive pile of bodies serves as a grim reminder of why solitude is called the universe's worst prison. One mentions a rumor that an old man once killed everyone, but his friend dismisses it as a lie. Suddenly, a bright golden light appears, and they see something coming out of it. Strange, grotesque stone-faced creatures emerge, drooling and licking their lips. The nearby prisoners stare in absolute terror, wondering what these new monsters are. The creatures begin to advance, causing the inmates to panic and run away screaming. Horik nervously asks Arjul if these are the summoned beasts he was talking about. The old warrior sits calmly on his rock and tells his new ally not to worry. He explains that these creatures are just janitors, here to clean up the cells. An inmate, feeling relieved, kicks one of the creatures, calling it disgusting for scaring them. Arjul adds that if they are attacked, the creatures will get angry, and the inmate is sent flying by an explosion. The old warrior then turns to Horik and asks about the thing he had requested from him earlier. The eagle beastman confirms he took care of everything, and is even doing some extra work just in case. Arjul is satisfied with the answer, and tells his new allies it is time to head back and get ready. Elsewhere, the two inmates tasked with cleanup are still walking, feeling sick from their grim duty. One calls the other a drama queen, but his friend explains he has seen corpses, but never watched them rot. His companion tells him to suck it up, but the other inmate suddenly stops, his eyes wide with shock. In the distance, another, much larger summoning begins, engulfing the area in a massive pillar of fire. A monstrous, two-headed lizard emerges from the flames, leaving the inmates utterly stunned. Someone screams in terror, realizing the creature is a deadly fire-breathing dragon. The prisoners stare in disbelief, wondering what kind of monster has been summoned into their cell block. The two-headed dragon hovers menacingly, its presence filling the entire hall with dread. Flames begin to gather in the creature's mouths, signaling an imminent and devastating attack. The inmates are frozen in fear, their eyes wide with terror as they watch the beast prepare its assault. A massive fireball erupts from its mouth, instantly engulfing one of the prisoners in a fiery explosion. The sight breaks their paralysis, and the remaining inmates begin to scream and run for their lives. The dragon continues its attack, raining down a relentless storm of fire from above. The cell block is thrown into chaos as the prisoners desperately try to escape the spreading inferno. The fiery assault is devastating, and an inmate notes that half the prisoners in one area were burned to death. Horik watches the destruction in horror and asks Arjul if this, the summoning he was talking about. Arjul curses, realizing they summoned the worst possible monster. He recalls Jacob's warning that the monster being summoned was the cursed fire-breathing dragon. Menrock complains about the intense heat, wondering if they can even take the beast down. The old warrior reassures them that the setup they prepared will do its job just fine. He then tells them that if they follow his instructions, they will not die, and warns that the dragon is coming. The massive creature crashes to the ground, its fiery body sending sparks flying everywhere. Argel gives his first command, telling everyone to remember what he is about to say. He explains that 1 second after it opens its mouth, it unleashes a 10-meter stream of fire. The old warrior instructs them to immediately get behind a rock when they see the dragon. The group quickly takes cover as a massive blast of fire erupts from the creature's mouth. The young man holds Ciro protectively, watching the dragon's every move. They realize their preparations of gathering stones and building a flame shield have paid off. Menrock complains, asking the old man for a heads up next time. The rhino beastman then yells at Horik to switch with him, but the eagle beastman refuses. Ciro brings the eagle beastman a small container of water he collected, and Horik thanks him. The old warrior tells him to mix it with dirt and fling the mud at the dragon when it is distracted. Menrock prepares a large pile of rocks, ready to throw them at the beast. Argel explains that even a fire-breathing dragon still needs to breathe like any other creature. He reveals that this particular dragon actually breathes through its skin. The mud covers the dragon's body, causing it to suffocate and freeze in place, unable to see. Argel walks toward the immobilized dragon, his blade glowing with a menacing red light. He unleashes a flurry of attacks, tearing the massive creature apart in a bloody display of power. The old warrior reflects that to survive in isolation, one must become a monster themselves. The remaining prisoners stare in shock as the fighting finally stops, wondering if it is over. They can hardly believe they managed to bring down such a powerful beast. The group of survivors stands over the dragon's corpse, their teamwork having paid off. Ciro looks up at his companion, a shocked and confused expression on his face. Argel comments that they were all ready to face death, but the danger is not over yet. To their horror, another summoning begins, and the inmates cry out in despair. Argel remains calm, stating that he is also speaking from his guts, and is ready for what is next. This time, over 10 fire-breathing dragons are summoned, filling the hall with a fiery glow. The group looks on in terror, wondering if they can possibly survive against such overwhelming odds. The dragons let out a deafening roar, their collective power shaking the entire cell block. Argel turns to face the new threat, his expression grim as he assesses the situation. The real issue is that the dragons have cut off their escape, trapping them in a sea of fire. The old warrior calmly says no, stating it would be impossible to keep them all alive this time. Horik questions his master's decision, knowing that things could be even worse out in the hallways. Menrock panics, screaming that it is more dangerous outside and questioning the plan. The eagle beastman tells his friend to calm down, reminding him that the safest place is next to the old man. As he speaks, one of the dragons lunges forward, its massive head bearing down on the rhino beastman. Just as the dragon attacks, Argel grunts, preparing to intervene. He leaps into the air with incredible speed, his body a blur against the fiery backdrop. The old warrior lands a powerful blow, saving Menrock from the dragon's attack at the last second. Argel turns to the stunned rhino beastman, reminding him that he did not want to die meaninglessly. He then orders everyone to move, telling them they have no time to waste as he leads the way. The small group quickly follows him, entering the dark and ominous hallway. Horik sweats nervously, unable to see clearly and realizing this is the dangerous hallway he heard about. The old warrior warns everyone to stay alert, as they might run into other inmates out here. He explains that a third or fourth class prisoner could kill them in the blink of an eye. The eagle beastman offers to take the rear and watch their backs, using his superior eyesight. Argel agrees, but gives him a stern warning to never stray from the group for any reason. As Horik follows behind, his sixth sense tells him that something far away is watching him. He begins to question if they are truly safe in this dark and foreboding corridor. The eagle beastman senses scream at him, confirming there is definitely something else in the hallway. He calls out to his master, suggesting they should turn back to the relative safety of the cell. A look of pure terror spreads across Horik's face as he stares into the darkness. In the distance, a tall, slender figure appears, a single red beam of light shining from its eye. Menrock panics, shouting for Horik as the rest of the group continues down the hallway. Argel tells him to be quiet, warning that shouting will only attract more danger. The old warrior calmly explains that among the dangers are ghosts, like beings that can change position freely. The rhino beastman sweats, unnerved by the thought of facing actual ghosts. The elder clarifies that anything one can imagine exists in this dangerous corridor. Menrock is torn, unable to disbelieve what he saw but still worried about finding his friend. Argel reassures him, saying there is no need to worry about finding a mere sparrow, though he is a bald eagle. Meanwhile, Horik finds himself alone in a seemingly endless corridor. This mysterious place was built by grand wizards and genius architects to be inescapable. He can hardly believe he was left behind in such a dangerous and confusing place. The eagle beastman suddenly senses something approaching and braces himself for a fight. A massive, muscular figure charges toward him, its footsteps shaking the ground. Horik stares in horror at the approaching beast, his eyes wide with fear. He realizes with a jolt of terror that the creature charging at him is an ogre. The massive beast swings its club, and the eagle beastman barely manages to dodge the attack. He knows he must stay sharp if he wants to survive this encounter. The ogre unleashes a powerful ground slam, but Horik leaps into the air to avoid the shockwave. He is sent flying by the force of the attack, crashing hard against the corridor wall. The eagle beastman knows he cannot possibly take on such a powerful creature alone. His survival instincts kick in, screaming at him to run away as fast as he can. Just as Horik is about to flee, he finds himself surrounded by 2 more ogres. He curses his bad luck, his feathers ruffled as he prepares for a desperate fight. The eagle beastman knows that the moment he is caught, he will be torn to pieces. He is forced to dodge a relentless barrage of attacks from the 3 massive beasts. With a cry of desperation, he leaps into the air, determined not to die in this place. However, one of the ogres manages to grab him, its massive hand closing around his body. As the beast prepares to eat him, Horik wonders if his life is about to end so meaninglessly. Suddenly, a new figure appears, landing a powerful blow on the ogre's head. It is a pig-like beastman, who has arrived just in time to save the eagle beastman. He lands gracefully, ready to take on the remaining ogres himself. Horik is stunned, completely baffled by this unexpected turn of events. The newcomer explains that with a bold attack, they have successfully taken the initiative. He then steps up to plate, announcing himself as Player Becky, and preparing to fight. The pig-like warrior unleashes a flurry of attacks, calling out baseball terms as he fights. He moves with surprising speed and agility, taking on the massive beasts with his trusty bat. After a short but intense battle, he prepares to land the finishing blow. He lands a devastating uppercut, knocking the ogre's head clean off in a double play. Horik is speechless, amazed that 2 ogres were beaten down so easily. Player Becky then smashes a 2-run homer, finishing off the last ogre in style. He then celebrates his victory, enjoying the fruits of his labor as he eats the fallen ogre. Horik stares at his savior, his mind reeling from the sudden turn of events. He recognizes the number 4 on the pig man's clothes, identifying him as a level 4 prisoner. Realizing he has no other choice, the eagle beastman begs the stranger for help. The pig man asks what his deal is, and Horik pleads for his life, desperate not to die. Becky is amused, but then he suddenly sniffs the air, his expression changing. He grabs Horik, demanding to know who he is, and why he smells like the blind old man. The pig man's demeanor becomes menacing as he demands an answer, and Horik nervously mentions Lord Argel. Just then, 2 more figures appear, and one of them calls out to Becky. The eagle beastman is stunned, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and confusion. The newcomer scolds Becky for running off on his own, reminding him how many times he has been told. He then reveals that he knows Becky caught the ogres. Seeing it as a blessing from the gods, the group is in awe, amazed that they managed to catch such dangerous creatures. Horik and Becky are then confronted by a group of 4 powerful level 4 prisoners. The eagle beastman is terrified, realizing that it was much safer back in the cell. A fierce battle rages in the hallway, the clash of powerful inmates echoing through the prison. Argel appears, having finally reached his destination. He tells everyone to stop, and Menrock asks if he has found Horik. The old warrior tells them to come closer and look down into the area below. The group stares in shock at the scene unfolding before them. A massive, spider-like monster is feasting on the corpses of the fallen inmates, and Horik is among them. Argel explains that the monster is strong enough to easily kill a level 5 prisoner. He reveals that all the ghosts in the corridor have names, and this one is called Decapitation. The old warrior confirms, his expression grim as he watches the creature below. He explains that it is named that because its primary method of killing is cutting off heads. The monster's menacing, multi-eyed face and sharp fangs fill the group with dread. Argel warns them to be careful, as there is no longer a safe zone now that they have seen it. He tells them they were lucky not to be spotted, as they would have all been slaughtered. The old warrior asks if they are scared, and Menrock admits the hallway is not a good place for a stroll. When Argel suggests turning back, the Rhino beastman refuses, unwilling to leave his friend behind. The elder is pleased with his answer, and tells him to keep looking for his friend. The young man asks if they can really find him, and Argel reassures him not to worry. Elsewhere, Becky violently interrogates Horik, demanding to know his connection to the old man. One of the other level 4 prisoners asks what is wrong, noticing the commotion. Becky explains that he smelled that old man on this stranger, confirming his suspicions. One of their companions, a zombie-like man named Iraq, begins to panic, realizing he might die. The leader of the group tells Iraq not to be scared, as the old man is not there. He then tells Becky that he just wants to talk to the Eagle Beastman for a bit. The leader warns him not to go too far, and Becky complains about missing his chicken dinner. The red-haired woman of the group tells Horik not to be too afraid, as they are not capable of harming him. She then reveals that in isolation, many are targeting a man named Argel. The woman warns him that being with Argel means getting involved with dangerous beings, a fate that dozens of lives could not endure. The Eagle Beastman sweats nervously, his eyes wide as he asks what kind of beings she is talking about. She describes them as monsters, so terrifying they cannot even be looked at directly, warning him to be careful. The woman then begins to channel a powerful energy, enveloping herself in a warm, golden light. Horik is amazed as his wounds instantly heal. She explains she also recited a prayer to ease his mind, and tells him to return safely. She wishes him the constellation's blessings as her group walks away, and the Eagle Beastman gratefully thanks her for her help. With his strength restored, Horik finds that he can move again, and begins the long walk back into the darkness. After a while, he hears familiar footsteps in the distance, and his eyes fill with tears of overwhelming relief. He finally reunites with Menrock and the others, who are all overjoyed to see that he is still alive. The Rhino Beastman thanks the old warrior profusely, and Horik bows his head in gratitude, confirming he is now safe. Argel asks if a level 4 prisoner treated him, and Horik says yes, adding that the person believed in the constellation of light, which relieves the elder. The young man overhears the phrase Eski Stars, remarking that it sounds familiar, and asks Zero if he remembers what he told him. He explains that there are godlike beings in the cosmos, like the angelic constellation of light, and the demonic void stars of darkness. He adds that most followers, whether light or dark, are fanatics who truly believe in a guaranteed afterlife. The youth concludes that even in a place like Solitude, the inmates' beliefs are split between different gods. Zero realizes Horik met one of them, while Argel notes the Eagle Beastman has potential for growth after surviving the dangerous hallway. As Menrock thanks him again, Argel tells them to live with motivation, mentioning that he has trained many powerful fangs. Before, he recalls training formidable warriors, stating that while the process takes time, it is not a difficult task for him. However, the old warrior's one major concern is that he does not have much time left to see his plans through. He grits his teeth in frustration, realizing that his rapidly dwindling time is a serious problem. Argel suddenly yells for everyone to run at full speed, his expression grim and determined. As they flee, a massive fiery explosion erupts right behind them, signaling the arrival of a new threat. A terrifying, slender monster with glowing red eyes and blade-like limbs crashes down from above. The entire group looks back in absolute horror, their faces pale with shock and fear at the sight of the creature. The monster lands with a deafening crash, and the young man tells Zero to hold on tight as he urges everyone to run. Horik shouts at Menrock, asking what that thing is, and the Rhino Beastman stammers that it is the Beheader. The creature, known as the Beheader, relentlessly pursues them through the dark and desolate corridor. The youth grits his teeth, recalling the old warrior's warning that even level 5 prisoners are killed easily by that thing. He realizes this is a far greater danger than the ogres they feared before, and tells his panicking companion to just run. Argel effortlessly lifts both the young man and Zero, warning that getting caught by the monster means instant death. The old warrior knows he cannot afford to lose his new allies here, and decides he must draw the creature away himself. As the Beheader strikes again, landing just behind them, the young man cries out that he cannot go on much longer. Argel points toward a narrow passage, instructing the group to head inside for temporary safety. The monster roars in frustration as it tries to follow, but finds the entrance is too narrow for it to get through. The elder tells them this is just the beginning and instructs the Eagle Beastman to lead the others to the cells through a split path. Argel states that he will lure the creature somewhere else, and Horik looks back with a determined expression, understanding his role. The Beheader begins to violently smash its bladed limbs against the narrow opening, tearing through the metal wall. It becomes clear the monster intends to smash its way through with pure brute force, and the group panics. Just as the wall explodes, Argel yells at them to go, running in the opposite direction to draw the Beheader's attention. The rest of the group finally reaches a safe area, collapsing in exhaustion as Menrock asks if they really got away. The young man suggests they should go back and fight alongside the old warrior, but Menrock says the hallway is crawling with those things. Just as the Rhino Beastman agrees they cannot just leave him behind, Horik firmly tells them no. He explains that the elder has been living alone in this prison for far longer than any of them can imagine, This means he has fought countless ghosts, and they would only be baggage, who would not survive if they went back. The Eagle Beast Man reminds them their job is to get to the cells as fast as possible, and the group reluctantly agrees to leave. Meanwhile, the beheader taunts Argel, offering to cut off his legs so they will not hurt anymore. The monster continues its mockery, suggesting he leave a will, but the old man asks if it hates him so much that it wants him dead. Argel pretends not to understand, calmly asking how he could have possibly tricked the creature. The beheader roars in fury, accusing him of breaking a promise to play rock, paper, scissors from over 4 years ago. As the monster rages, the old warrior's expression turns serious. Realizing something is off about this ghost, he knows ghosts are mentally unstable, so its clear memory means someone he knows sent it. He thinks of a name, Saddle. The creature seems confused by the word, repeating the name and asking what it means. Argel recalls that Saddle was just a brat 5 years ago, and is now surprised he can control ghosts. A new voice speaks through the monster. Impressed that the elder noticed its hidden mark, the old warrior scoffs, asking if his opponent has forgotten that his eyes miss nothing, and revealing he was just testing him. In a burst of red energy, a necromancer from the demon worshippers appears, confirming his name is Saddle. Argel states that even after 5 years, Saddle still has not realized they are on completely different levels. The necromancer scoffs through the monster, declaring that this time will be different as it lunges to attack. However, the elder moves with blinding speed, creating multiple afterimages of himself to effortlessly dodge the assault. The monster roars in frustration, confident that after 5 long years, it will finally be the one to defeat him. Saddle boasts that after 5 years, he has even gained the ability to control the dangerous hallway ghosts. He is confident that not even the old man can escape this attack from the powerful creature under his command. The necromancer explains that the beheader is a grade 5 monster, a level of power few can withstand. With this ghost, he claims he can now kill even the strongest grade 5 inmates with absolute ease. He urges the old warrior to give up and join his cause, offering to spare his life as a reward for his surrender. But the elder simply scoffs, dismissing the passage of 5 years as completely irrelevant to their fight. He reveals that he has endured 60 long years in solitude, making his opponent's experience seem trivial. Argel stands firm against the monster's assault, unimpressed by the power his foe has acquired. He calmly calls the necromancer a greenhorn, still far too inexperienced despite his newfound abilities. The veteran questions if Saddle truly thinks his 5 years of struggle can compare to his own 60 years of survival. Unraged by his words, Saddle screams at him to stop spouting nonsense, refusing to accept the truth. In a blur of motion, Argel closes the distance and parries the monster's blade with a powerful counterattack. He tells Saddle that after all that time, the stage he has finally reached is merely a way to measure grades, a superficial understanding of true power. The elder follows up with a devastating punch, landing a clean hit on the beheader's jaw. He tells the young necromancer that for his next lesson, he must learn to see the true essence of power. With a final brutal blow, Argel demonstrates the raw force of his experience. The monster's head explodes from the impact, a clear display of the vast difference in their class. The old warrior stands calmly over the defeated monster's body, the battle decisively won. He looks down at a glowing red symbol on the creature's remains, identifying it as the mark of ghost control. Argel holds up the monster's severed hair, stating it will be a message for the devil worshippers. With a final decisive strike, he completely destroys the mark of control, severing the necromancer's connection. Meanwhile, the group makes their way through the dark corridor, realizing how hard it is to navigate without their leader. Horik asks if they are on the right path, as finding their way in the confusing hallway is nearly impossible on their own. Menrock worries if the old man is okay after the loud noise they heard, but the young man believes their leader has a plan. Suddenly, Ciro spots a light ahead and points it out to the others, just as Argel appears and calls them late. The group is shocked to see him, wondering how he managed to escape the ghost and pass them without being seen. The elder dismisses their questions, telling them to get into the cell quickly, as the danger is already over. He explains that the fire-breathing dragons have finished their hunt and left the hallway, but the group is still confused. As they enter the cell, Ciro stares in horror at the scene before him, his face pale with shock. The only things left inside the cell are the charred, pitch-black corpses of the other inmates. The young man rushes to Ciro's side, asking if he is okay as the boy covers his face in distress. The old warrior puts a comforting hand on Ciro's shoulder, telling him to accept the harsh reality of solitude. The boy looks up with tear-filled eyes, asking if the weak are simply fated to die in this place. The elder calmly tells him no, explaining that in a prison like this, anyone can die at any time. The grim scene serves as a harsh reminder of what solitude truly is, a place where countless prisoners arrive and die daily. Their lives are forfeit regardless of their grade, personality, abilities, or connections to the outside world. In this brutal prison, the only certainty for most is that they will eventually die. That is all. Menrock stares at the gruesome aftermath, cursing the hellhole they are trapped in. He grimly notes the endless cycle of death and replacement, just as roll call time approaches, heralding new arrivals. A system announcement declares the start of morning roll call, revealing that only 5 of the 95 inmates have survived. Due to the extreme personnel shortage in cell block 1257, the remaining survivors will be relocated. The group looks on in shock and confusion, caught completely off guard by the sudden announcement. A bright golden light envelops them, and Ciro calls out in a panic as his companion tells him to calm down. Argel quickly warns them to listen carefully, as they may be split up after the forced transfer. The inmates are pulled apart by the powerful light, and Menrock shouts in surprise at being forcibly separated. The old warrior gives them one last piece of advice, telling them to run toward the sea if they land in a jungle. Horuk yells in confusion, wondering why there would even be a jungle in a high-tech prison. The transfer completes, leaving the remains of their old cell block empty and desolate. Argel finds himself in a new cell, disappointed that everyone got split up, especially the one he thought had potential. To his surprise, the only one who came to the new cell with him was the young boy, Cero. The elder understands the warden's intent is clear, sending a message to just manage the merchandise he was given. He knows he will be meeting the warden soon enough, but until then, he plans to raise the kid and take what he needs. The old warrior surveys their new surroundings, noting that this cell is 4 times larger and holds around 300 prisoners. A shadowy figure in the distance notices their arrival, pointing out the newcomers to his companion. A group of rough-looking inmates mockingly comments on the old geezer and the brat who were just summoned. One of them suggests enslaving the two, while another remarks on the boy's nice age, calling it the sweet spot. They stare at Ciro with hungry eyes, commenting that the young boy is just ripe for the taking. Ciro hides behind the elder, nervously pointing out that the other prisoners have weird, predatory eyes. Argel calmly steps forward, telling the greedy inmates to stop right there and back off. Just then, a red-haired woman named Rosanne appears with her gang, and the other inmates stammer her name in fear. She mocks Argel for acting high and mighty without an affiliation, and coldly tells him to disappear immediately. As the previous group flees, Rosanne watches them go before ordering her own men to bring the young boy to her. One of her subordinates moves in and grabs Ciro, who cries out in fear while hiding behind the old man. The boy panics, his eyes wide with terror as he tries to resist being taken away by the large inmate. He looks back at the elder, confused and scared, wondering why he is just standing by without helping him. The henchman drags Ciro away as the boy struggles, begging to be let go while the man tells him to be quiet. Ciro's fear intensifies, his wide eyes showing the pure terror he feels as he is pulled away from his protector. Suddenly, the inmate is struck by an unseen force, sending him stumbling forward and causing him to lose his grip on the child. The man is stunned, wondering what just happened, while Rosanne demands to know what her subordinate just did. The red-haired leader scolds her goon, angrily asking why he cannot even do his job properly. She reminds him that the boy is a product entrusted to her by the warden, but the man insists he did not do anything. The henchman looks down at Ciro in complete confusion, still trying to process the sudden, invisible attack. In the background, Argel watches with a calm, unreadable expression, his intervention having gone unnoticed. A fierce red aura suddenly erupts from Ciro as his body begins to transform, his features becoming more feral. The other inmates back away in shock as the transformed boy now stands before them, ready to fight. Rosanne smirks, amused by the sight and noting that he is even wagging his tail, deciding he is worth raising. She orders her men to hurry and capture the boy, but they hesitate, now intimidated by his new form. The transformed Ciro lunges at the man who grabbed him, his face contorted in a ferocious snarl. He lands a devastating blow, sending the large inmate flying backward with incredible force. Ciro growls at the man, warning him to behave as he cannot kill him, a promise he made to the old man. Enraged, the henchman lunges forward to attack, but the transformed boy easily overpowers him. Another of Rosanne's subordinates rushes in, scolding his comrade for being so disgraceful. He moves to strike Ciro, but the boy's feral instincts take over, and he easily counters the attack. The new attacker is sent flying, crashing into his ally as Rosanne's men prove unable to even catch one small brat. The enforcer then turns his attention to Argel, demanding to know what the old geezer is doing and telling him to get lost. He raises his hand to strike, but the elder effortlessly catches his arm, stopping him in his tracks. In a single, fluid motion, Argel flips the large man over his shoulder, slamming him hard onto the ground. He then lands a swift, decisive blow knocking the man unconscious with a single punch. The old warrior stands over the fallen bodies, leaving Roseanne and her remaining men completely stunned. The red-haired leader is impressed, her eyes fixed on the blindfolded man's display of power. Argel looks down at the unconscious Zero, noting that even though he lost reason, he is no match for a Class 2 prisoner. He thinks that the boy is not without talent and could become far more valuable in his hands, making him worth raising. Roseanne approaches, mocking the elder for standing in a daze after touching one of her kids. Assuming he is fearless because of his age, the woman grins menacingly, stating that at his age, the only thing left to fear is the Grim Reaper, and she will give him one more thing to fear today. She leaps into the air, her whip cracking as she threatens to tie him up, so he cannot move a muscle. The red-haired woman lands, promising to peel his flesh off one slice at a time with her whip. Just as she prepares to strike, a massive figure lands between them, shouting that it is enough. Roseanne is annoyed by the flashy entrance, telling the newcomer not to get in her way as she found the old man first. A large, muscular man with a strange symbol on his forehead now stands before them, his presence intimidating. The newcomer tells Roseanne that it is time to retreat, but she scoffs, questioning who he thinks he is to give her orders. The red-haired woman declares she is always prepared for a war, and it is bound to happen eventually. The large man stands his ground, stating that if she is not backing down, then neither is he. Roseanne mocks him for being slick, noting that he has her surrounded from all sides with no escape route. The man tells her not to fall for every provocation, reminding her that if they fight, it is just what Beckham wants. Defeated, she walks away with her gang, promising to make him regret this someday. The man is relieved she backed down for now, and the elder asks if he saved him in the jungle a year ago. The newcomer grins, confirming the old warrior's memory is correct, though he may have forgotten the encounter. Argel admits he does not remember, but the man insists that he helped him that day, and he has not forgotten. The elder realizes it must have been during the liberation, where he unintentionally helped while hunting natives. The man kneels before him, declaring that even if time is past, the fact that he was saved does not change. He orders his own men to bow their heads, introducing the old warrior as their new big bro. The large man and his entire gang bow in respect, calling out to their new leader. Argel can only scratch his head, surprised by this sudden and unexpected turn of events. Just then, Zero cries out in pain from a nightmare, begging for it to stop. The boy thrashes in his sleep, his mind still reeling from the traumatic events of the day. The large man, whose name is Margan, watches with concern before suggesting they continue the briefing. He explains that they are in cell 398, and there are currently 3 major factions inside. The first is the one he leads, known as the Axe, or the Margan Circle. The second is the Whip Witch, Roseanne's Circle, the group they encountered just a few moments earlier. And the third is the Blade User, Beckham's Circle, a group they have yet to encounter. Margan reveals that all the circle leaders, himself included, are powerful Class 3 prisoners. These 3 circles currently maintain the balance of power, and all are preparing to release. One searching near the cells. Argel notes that Margan has gotten used to solitude quite well, and the man credits his survival to being able to form a small circle. The elder thanks him for the valuable information and says he will rest now, and Margan offers to bring him some food. As Margan leaves, Argel calmly eats a bud, his expression unreadable as Zero quietly watches him. The boy asks if the old man did not help him earlier, because he is weak and not needed. The elder points out that Zero does not remember his brief awakening and says if he had been abandoned, they would not be together now. He then asks if the boy is scared, and Zero admits he is, feeling useless without his companion, Lucas. The young boy says he is too weak to be of any use, but the old warrior tells him he has completely misunderstood. Argel explains that whether one is strong or weak is not for them to decide, but for the one they stand against. The elder states that he wants Zero to survive in solitude, and he is willing to help him achieve that. He offers to teach the boy how to drive out the darkness in his heart and become truly strong. Zero is stunned by the offer, his eyes wide with a mix of hope and disbelief at the old man's words. But before they can begin, the elder tells him that he must eat first, much to the boy's confusion. The old warrior asks if Zero knows what he fears the most in this desolate prison. He reveals that his greatest fear is hunger, as there is nothing more painful than starvation. Argel presents him with a bowl of bugs, explaining that one cannot become strong on an empty stomach, a reality he must accept. He tells the boy if he truly wants to become strong, he must eat, no matter how disgusting the food may be. With a look of pure determination, Zero declares he will become strong too and begins to eat the bugs. Elsewhere, a group called the Losna Circle notes that their leader, Lady Losna, has gone to make her regular report. In a dark chamber, a robed figure bows before a glowing red orb, reporting on their progress. She confirms they have gathered about half of the living specimens, and believes the next phase will be completed on time. The voice from the orb asks if anything unusual has occurred, and she says no, though the elderly and children were transferred. The orb dismisses her concerns, but then asks for more details about the elderly inmates. The woman recalls that their eyes had a mysterious light, and they moved toward chaos as if drawn to it. The voice asks if this is true, and she confirms there is no mistake, wondering who it could be. A fiery dragon-like entity emerges from the orb, declaring it will go there personally to investigate. The woman is surprised by this decision, but offers to capture the old man for her master before he arrives. The leader of demons agrees, giving her permission to do as she likes with the prisoner. With the authority she has been granted, the woman looks forward to capturing the powerful old man. Now back in her usual attire, the red-haired woman vows to capture all the prey her master desires and present them to him. Back in the cell, Argel and Ciro sit across from each other, meditating and channeling their inner energy. They sit in silent concentration, the atmosphere calm and focused as their training begins. The elder tells the boy it is time to begin, instructing him to close his eyes and breathe slowly. Ciro follows his instructions, determined to become stronger and survive the horrors of the prison. Argel explains that fists and techniques are meaningless, as what he ought to learn is something far more fundamental. The elder tells him to breathe in deeply and slowly exhale, focusing on the darkness that covers his vision. As he does, a ripple of energy appears, a sign of his growing control over his inner self. The old warrior explains they will now enter his inner self, and his spirit form floats out of his body. The elder's spirit watches over Ciro, instructing him to keep his breathing steady and slow. At his command, the boy opens his eyes, finding himself in a strange, dark, and unfamiliar place. He calls out for the old man, confused and scared as he looks around the empty void. The elder's voice reassures him, telling him to calm down as he is right there with him. He reveals that this strange place is the inside of Ciro's own mind, his inner self. Argel explains that to become strong, he must first confront the darkness within his heart, and instructs him to take one step forward. As Ciro takes that first step, he is suddenly engulfed in a bright, warm light, a vision of his past. He sees a happy memory of his family, his younger self held lovingly in his mother's arms. Tears stream down his face as he is overwhelmed by the powerful emotions of this long, lost memory. The elder's voice gently tells him that is far enough, and instructs him not to look down anymore. He tells Ciro to focus on his voice and exhale slowly, and the boy tries his best to follow the command. But the vision is too powerful, and his consciousness begins to fade as he is pulled deeper into the memory. Ciro gasps for air, his feral instincts taking over as he struggles to break free from the overwhelming vision. Back in the real world, Argel praises him for doing well in his first time confronting the darkness within. He reminds the boy to never forget what he is, as the blood he carries is a part of him. Ciro looks at his transformed hands, and the elder tells him that this blood will become his greatest weapon. With the training session over, Argel decides it is time for a meal, and the boy agrees. Just then, Margan arrives with roasted monster meat, offering it to them as a token of his gratitude. Ciro notices that Margan's men are not eating and asks if it is okay, but the old man tells him not to worry. Elsewhere, Roseanne and her gang confront Margan's men, demanding they hand over whatever they have. Margan's man tells her not to act like it is all hers, but Roseanne mocks him for suddenly acting like a good guy. She looks past him with a sinister grin, surprised to see that he is still alive after their last encounter. He reluctantly hands over their findings, understanding that he has no choice but to comply with her demands. Another of Margan's men brings over the bodies of the fallen, adding them to the pile. He explains that one of the bodies belongs to a Circle member who died in the hallway the day before. Ciro is horrified to realize they are trading corpses for food, and the elder confirms they also eat them. The old warrior grimly explains that this sort of thing happens often in the brutal reality of solitude. As the other inmates celebrate their disgusting haul, Ciro is overcome with nausea and throws up the meat he just ate. Margan tells his boss to rest up, as he and his men are heading back to eat as well. As they leave with their grim meal, Argel looks on with a pensive expression, feeling they got the short end of the stick. He turns to Ciro, telling him to eat all the monster meat and bugs he wants, but to never become like those people. Elsewhere, another group of inmates boasts about their latest kill, mocking their victims' pleas for life. They agree with their leader, Beckham, that first-class prisoners are trash who cannot even fight back properly. Just then, the man himself, Beckham, arrives with his own circle, his presence commanding respect and fear. He approaches Margan and his group, who are surprised to see the leader of the third faction. The two leaders stand face to face, the tension in the air thick with unspoken rivalry and suspicion. One of Margan's men is surprised that Beckham is willing to share food and loot, as their circles are on bad terms. The man explains that is not always the case, as Beckham never picks fights first, preferring to keep everyone under his control. He then reveals that the other leader wants to speak with their boss, and asks if they should go together. The elder tells Zero to head back alone, while he goes to meet with Beckham. But the boy is hesitant. Zero sits with his guards, who complain about being stuck babysitting a brat, while everyone else is at Beckham's feast. One of them looks at the boy with hungry eyes, commenting that his meat must be nice and tender. The other warns him to stop drooling, reminding him that if their captain finds out, their own meat will end up on Rosanna's plate. Zero is left alone with his dark thoughts, wondering if he can ever become as strong as the old man in a place like this. He recalls his earlier conversation with the elder, who asked if it was his first time seeing someone truly strong. The boy had eagerly confirmed, even asking if the old warrior was not human due to his incredible power. Argel had simply stated he was human, but Zero pressed further, asking if he could use energy or mana. The elder had explained that while he could not use mana, he could control energy to some extent. Zero, full of curiosity, had excitedly told him that he had tons more questions to ask. He had asked about the old man's age, and Argel had simply replied that he was 88. When asked about hobbies, he said he had none, but would take walks in the hall when he could not sleep. The boy then asked if he had any friends, and the elder had replied that some were cold on the outside but warm inside, and one even looked like a bear. Finally, Zero had asked the most difficult question of all, why he had come to Solitude in the first place. A grim silence had fallen between them, a bloody image flashing through the old warrior's mind. He had simply stated that his wife died, a truly beautiful woman who was always smiling, before saving the rest for another time. Back in the present, Zero is startled by a sudden noise, his eyes darting around in alarm. He senses danger approaching, his instincts on high alert as he prepares for a potential attack. A whip cracks through the air, and Zero finds himself surrounded by Rosanne and her gang. The boy is sent flying by the force of the attack, crashing hard against the unforgiving prison floor. Rosanne looks down at him, a predatory smile on her face as she asks where the old man they are looking for is. She mockingly calls him a little pup, and the boy panics, his mind racing as he tries to figure out what to do. He realizes with a jolt of terror that the old man is not here to protect him, leaving him completely alone and vulnerable. With a demonic grin, the woman beckons him to come closer, and the boy desperately tries to find a way to survive this new threat. Zero grits his teeth, enduring the painful lash of the whip as he's sent flying backward by the force. The red-haired woman comments on his surprising endurance, wondering what changed since his panic attack the day before. Terrified, the boy begs her to stop, warning that something terrible will happen if she lays another hand on him. Rosanne scoffs at his words, questioning if it is a threat and taunting him to hurry up, as she is getting bored. She encourages him to bark, and a red aura erupts around Zero as his body begins to transform once again. With a sinister grin, she mentions being sad lately because all her other pets have been dying one by one. She then swings her whip again, hoping this new pet will be able to endure a bit longer than the others. The whip coils tightly around the young boy's ankle, trapping him completely. The woman yanks him off his feet, sending him flying across the cell floor with a powerful tug of her whip. He soars through the air, completely helpless as Rosanne stands below amidst a fiery, intimidating aura. She pins the defeated boy to the ground with her foot, wondering when the old man will finally make his move. Meanwhile, Argel sits with Morgan and Beckham around a meal, finding the entire situation interesting. Beckham notes that the elder came to this cell right after hunting in the corridors, and then asks him a question. The Blade user points out that there is no class number written on Argel's neck like other prisoners. The elder explains that it has been a while, but initially, the prison did not assign any class numbers at all. Morgan remarks on how strong he must be, but Argel dismisses his past feats as ancient history. The three powerful inmates continue their quiet meeting amidst the prison's desolate, metallic landscape. Beckham reflects on the elder's story, noting it is his first time seeing a survivor without a class number. He recalls the story of him fighting jungle natives alone, and his expression turns suddenly serious. An intense glint appears in his eye as he decides he should test the mysterious old man's strength for himself. Morgan shivers, wondering what the sudden chill was and blaming it on not having eaten properly lately. The elder then excuses himself to leave, and Beckham asks why he is going so soon without even eating. Argel explains he has a child to look after, but he will take the monster meat with him as he walks away. Beckham thinks to himself that while Morgan did not sense it, the old man showed no reaction to his killing intent. The Blade user watches him go, his expression serious as he vows to remember the name Argel. Meanwhile, Zero lies chained and defeated on the floor as one of Rosanne's men congratulates her. The red-haired woman smiles with glee, her henchman praising the new pet as perfect for her taste. The boy lies still, his body hurting too much to even make a sound as he wonders how much he will struggle. He thinks that if he just acts like a pet, it might not hurt as much, and he might see his brother again someday. Suddenly, one of her men rushes in, and she angrily asks if he wants to be killed for being so noisy. The man nervously reports that the old man has appeared, causing a spark of hope to ignite in Ciro's eyes. The henchman stammers, trying to explain there is a big problem with their unexpected visitor. With a terrified expression, he reveals that the old warrior is not alone. The woman is stunned to see Argel standing before her, backed by the full force of the other two circles. Martin shouts at Rosanne from the crowd, telling her that she does not seem to value her life. She calls him a parasite and challenges him to attack if he is so confident, but he fumes at her disrespect. The elder tells his ally to calm down, stating that he will speak to the woman directly. He stands alone in the open area, looking up at her and demanding that she return his friend. Rosanne refuses, declaring the boy is hers since she caught him, and blaming Argel for failing to protect him. The old warrior finds her reasoning completely absurd, his expression hardening at her twisted logic. Argel tells the woman she does not understand the boy's true value, using him just to get his attention. With a grim expression, the old warrior warns her that having that child with her means she will surely die. Rosanne scoffs at his threat, confident that only someone like Martin would fall for such an obvious bluff. Enraged, Martin offers to rescue the child and bring her the woman's head, but Argel tells him it is not necessary. The large man is completely confused as his big brother simply turns and begins to walk away with the group. The elder explains that there is no problem taking Ciro back slowly because they will not kill him. In fact, he clarifies that they should not even be able to kill the boy in the first place. He knows the merchandise will be kept safe as the warden himself is watching over the situation. As the group leaves, Argel stops for a moment, lost in thought in the middle of the large hall. He finds himself alone in a long, quiet corridor, thinking about the recent turn of events. The old warrior remarks that it has been quite a while since he and a certain someone have met. A mysterious, dark-haired figure appears, asking if he has friends, and he admits he has a few cold yet warm ones. He notes that she must have spotted him in passing, identifying her as one of his few friends. A beautiful woman named Chris materializes before him, surrounded by a brilliant, light blue aura. She explains that the atmosphere was too intense to ignore, so she came to say hello and check on his health. The elder admits he is worried, as the time he has been given does not seem to be very long. Chris offers to clean up the troublesome elements in the cell, noting the presence of several demon worshippers. However, Argel declines her offer, concerned that his merchandise might get caught in the crossfire and die. The woman smiles warmly, mentioning she is going to see her sister and asking him to give her his regards. She then embraces the old warrior, telling him to let her know if he needs anything as he is their benefactor. As she disappears, the old warrior is left floating in a sea of blue energy, deep in thought. He reflects that no matter his current situation, he cannot go so far as to borrow a young child's help. Standing alone in a dark, high-tech corridor, he admits to himself that he has grown old. His restraints crackle with electricity as he realizes he can no longer solve everything head-on like he used to. However, as lightning courses through his hand, he knows that what he needs to do is not completely impossible. He realizes there is no need to hold back his strength as the bodies of his fallen enemies lie around him. With a surge of power, lightning crackles around his unique, spiraled blade, ready for action. Argel unleashes his power, his form a whirlwind of blue energy, as he prepares for the coming battle. Meanwhile, Rosanne walks through a dark, metallic corridor, her thoughts drifting to her own past. She recalls that she was once just an ordinary Class 3 prisoner, her arm bleeding from a recent injury. She had been just another face in the crowd, struggling to survive in the brutal prison. That all changed when she met that person, a massive, intimidating figure with immense power. She had been so overwhelmed by his presence that she instinctively knelt at his feet, unable to even make eye contact. It was that person's authority that allowed her to climb to her current position of power within the prison. One of her men calls out to her, waking her from a deep sleep, and she groggily asks what he wants. The man nervously apologizes, but insists that she needs to confirm something immediately. She threatens to send him flying if it is nothing important, but he urgently tells her all their guys have been taken out. He explains that when they woke up, everyone was already dead, and the red-haired leader is completely stunned. She asks what he is talking about, knowing that everyone wakes up at the same time due to the anti-stand system. With a look of dawning horror, she realizes that a surprise attack while they were sleeping should be impossible. She stands before the grim aftermath, realizing that out of 100 of her men, 40 are now dead. One of her subordinates notes they were all killed with a sharp, like weapon he has never seen before. A dark thought crosses her mind as she connects the unique weapon to a certain old man. She furiously rushes off in search of the little boy, demanding to know where that brat is. Convinced this is the geezer's doing, she looks down at the remains of the boy's restraints. With a look of pure determination, she rallies her remaining men and declares it is time to begin the hunt. Meanwhile, Sira wakes up to find himself safe with Argel, who asks if his consciousness has returned. The boy hangs his head in shame, realizing that the old man has saved him yet again. He tells the elder that after everything he has been through, he finally understands that he must protect himself. The young boy clenches his fists, a new resolve burning within him as he addresses the old warrior. With wide, determined eyes, he declares that he wants to become stronger, no matter what it takes. Just then, Margan arrives, asking why the kid is there and reminding his big brother it is time for roll call. The elder explains that he brought the boy, and that the three of them have something important to discuss. Rosanne and her large group march through the prison, their anger and determination clear on their faces. They arrive at the common area to find the other two circles already gathered, waiting for them. Argel stands with Beckham and Margan, the three leaders ready for the inevitable confrontation. The red-haired woman screams at the damn geezer to come out and face her, her voice filled with rage. She tells Margan to shut up, declaring that her only business is with the old man who crossed her. She accuses him of taking out her subordinates and kidnapping her little boy, her anger reaching its peak. The elder calmly looks back at her, asking if he should kill her too and put her on the dinner table. Argel calls her noisy for not understanding the situation, but she demands to know what he just said. With a stern expression, he simply repeats that she is loud, his voice cutting through the tension. The red-haired woman trembles with rage, unable to form a coherent response to his calm dismissal. The elder then turns to the other two leaders, asking for their thoughts on the proposal he just made. Margan quickly agrees, stating that it is his big brother's proposal, and a very welcome one for his circle. Beckham also agrees, noting that while there might be casualties, the potential reward is worth the risk. The elder then turns back to the confused Rosanne, explaining that he was making a proposal to the other two circles. He calmly suggests that since 40 of her men are already dead, they should hold a feast and capture the remaining 60 as slaves. The red-haired woman is completely stunned by his audacious proposal, her mind reeling from the implications. A cold sweat runs down her face as she realizes the terrifying reality of her situation. Each of the three circles had 100 members, maintaining a delicate balance of power. But now, thanks to the old geezer's actions, many of her forces are dead, and the balance has been shattered. The new alliance now has a combined force of 200, while her circle is left with a mere 60. She realizes this creates a power gap too large to handle, and a reflection of her defeat appears in her eye. An overwhelming sense of fear rushes in as she looks out at the massive army now standing against her. Her mind goes blank, unable to think of any possible way to escape this hopeless situation. She knows there is no way to win against forces more than triple the size of her own. As the massive army charges forward, Argel leads the attack, his form a blur of red-hot fury. The two sides clash in a brutal and bloody battle, the sounds of fighting echoing through the prison. Rosanne's forces are quickly overwhelmed, their bodies torn apart by the sheer numbers of their opponents. Rosanne fights desperately, swinging her whip in a bloody frenzy, as she is completely surrounded and overwhelmed. In the chaotic fray, a sharp blade finds its mark, piercing through the red-haired woman's chest. She is quickly swarmed and stabbed from all sides, her body falling amidst the relentless assault. Argel watches the grim scene from a distance, calmly remarking that he had already warned her of this fate. After the battle, he enters a hidden chamber and finds a strange altar with a glowing red orb, a clear sign of the demon worshippers. He picks up the object, identifying it as a life force orb, and noting that they have been gradually collecting them. As he holds the orb, a powerful red energy emanates from the altar, enveloping him completely. The elder seems annoyed, realizing that being involved in such troublesome matters will likely delay his meeting with the warden. He then speaks to the orb, calling out to someone named Darkus and asking if he is listening. Argel recalls his previous encounter with Saddle, who was linked with a ghost, and mentions he severed that connection. He warns Darkus to stop pursuing him, telling the demon worshipper that he will regret it if he continues. A new, deep voice suddenly speaks from the altar, dismissing the old warrior's words as boring chatter. The massive, demonic figure of Darkus appears, taunting Argel and asking if he is scared. The elder retorts, asking if he looks like someone who would fear him, and begins to crush the life force orb in his hand. With a final, decisive squeeze, he shatters the orb, warning that if Darkus chases him, he will die without fail. Elsewhere in a lavish room, a long-haired man with red eyes sits calmly, sipping from a fancy chalice. This powerful figure is revealed to be the Vampire King Induras, a terrifying and high-ranking Class 8 prisoner. As someone tries to approach, the Vampire King angrily tells them to get lost, threatening to kill everyone in the room. Suddenly, Darkus appears before him, calmly stating that he has something he needs to discuss with Induras. The Demon Commander, also a Class 8 prisoner, reveals that he has a proposal for the Vampire King. The Vampire King calmly sips his drink, remarking that as always, the Demon Commander has no sense of manners. Darkus reminds him that they both serve the Void Constellation, and insists the proposal is good for him too. The massive Demon Commander then makes his request, asking for help to capture the old warrior, Argel. However, Induras flatly refuses, stating that among black magic users, there is no true master or disciple relationship. He advises the demon to give up, claiming the old man is completely out of his league, which enrages Darkus. The commander warns the Vampire King that a time will come when he will regret making this choice. With a menacing toothy grin, Darkus declares that he will simply capture Argel all by himself. The Vampire King simply smirks back, sarcastically wishing him the best of luck with his foolish endeavor. Darkus then vanishes in a swirling vortex of dark energy, leaving the lavish room in a sudden silence. Induras scoffs at the demon's arrogance, calling him an insolent brat who still does not understand his own position. He reflects that any prisoner who climbs the ranks in solitude eventually learns the name Argel Rastos. The Vampire King wonders to himself how a mere human has managed to survive in this hellish prison for decades. Meanwhile, the new alliance celebrates their victory with a massive feast, roaring about finally getting to eat. While the allied circles each lost 20 men, Rosna's circle suffered an additional 30 deaths, including her own. One of Beckham's men reports that the rest of the defeated inmates have all been bound and put into storage. Margan raises his food in a toast, thanking his big brother for helping them dispose of the arrogant Rosna. Beckham watches the elder drink blood like water, and Argel simply comments that it is not bad. The old warrior turns down the offer of meat, explaining that he has no appetite after moving around so much. Beckon is impressed by the man's power and formally asks if he would be willing to join their circle. Margon then reveals his plan to unite the lower-class prisoners to fight the mid-class inmates in the upcoming release. However, Argel calmly declines the proposal, his expression unreadable as he looks back at Beckham. The Blade user asks why, and the elder explains he is too old for such grand things and will support him instead. He then turns to Margan and clarifies that he has no intention of joining his circle either, much to his surprise. Beckham asks if he will not come with them, but Argel simply excuses himself, stating he is busy taking care of a child. The two powerful leaders can only stare in confusion, both wondering why he would be taking care of a child. 6 days later, the old warrior and Ciro are back to their training, and it is time for the boy to enter his inner self again. Ciro asks why he has to walk through his memories, and the elder explains it is to know what he truly desires. With that, they begin their meditation, both sitting cross-legged in silent concentration. The boy finds himself back in the dark, watery expanse of his own mind, a familiar yet unsettling place. He remembers that this is his 8th time entering his inner self, and this time, he must try to walk forward continuously. He recalls that all of Argel's training has been focused on inner cultivation, forcing him to confront painful memories. As he walks, he is bombarded with visions of his past, his mother begging him to come back as his father blocks the door. The boy realizes that he would rather be beaten and feel physical pain than relive these traumatic experiences. He sees memories of parting with loved ones, his home being destroyed by massive war machines. But he forces himself to push forward, trusting that the old man has a reason for making him do this. The elder's voice echoes in his mind, reminding him to never look down when he is in the darkness. With a new resolve, the boy agrees, his eyes filled with a mix of fear and determination as he thinks about the old man. He continues his long, arduous walk through the dark void, pushing past the pain and the memories. After what feels like an eternity, he reaches the edge of a cliff, a dead end with nowhere else to go. Just then, the elder's voice commands him to proceed if he truly wants to become strong, leaving the boy terrified. Sweat pours down his face as he admits he is scared, but he knows he must become strong. He takes a deep breath, determined not to lose any more precious people in his life. With a renewed sense of purpose, he steps off the cliff, reminding himself he will be fine as long as he does not look down. But as he falls, his eyes widen in terror as he realizes he is not alone in the dark abyss. Something is there at his feet, a swirling vortex of dark purple energy that seems to be calling to him. A voice echoes from the darkness, greeting him after what has been a very long time. The voice expresses its sadness, that he has not called for it until now, and the boy realizes it is talking to him. He nervously tries to respond, but the voice asks if he can hear it or if he is ignoring it again. The dark entity blames him for his people's suffering, and the boy is stunned by the accusation. It claims that if he had not been so selfish, his people would not have died, and they suffered because of him. A massive, multi-eyed demonic creature emerges from the darkness, its presence overwhelming and terrifying. The boy struggles to breathe, the immense pressure crushing him as he begs for the pain to stop. His eyes widen in pure terror, the psychic assault becoming too much for him to bear. He lets out a final, agonizing scream as the darkness threatens to consume him completely. Just as he is about to be pulled into the abyss, a hand reaches out and grabs him, pulling him back to safety. His body transforms, his features becoming more feral as he grits his teeth against the overwhelming pain. Back in the real world, the boy collapses on the floor as the elder stands over him. The intense training session finally over. Argel congratulates him, a small smile on his face, as he looks down at the exhausted but transformed boy. Zero looks at his own body, shocked to see that it has grown bigger and more powerful after facing the darkness within. The old warrior looks up with a serious expression, sensing that the time for their next challenge has finally come. The elder tells the boy to follow him, promising to teach him what he truly desires. Zero is confused, his mind still reeling from the intense training as he wonders what it is that he desires. Argel looks back at him with a serious expression, proposing about to teach him how to fight. He then floats into the air, his body weightless as he prepares for their first combat lesson. The boy is shocked as a fist flies toward his face, his mind struggling to process the sudden attack. But his instincts kick in, and he manages to dodge the punch, surprised by his own newfound reflexes. However, the elder is relentless, landing a powerful blow that sends the young boy flying backward. He lands hard on the ground, and Argel explains that to become skilled in combat, several methods are necessary. The first and most important is to learn to fight with pure, unadulterated instinct. The two clash in a flurry of blows, the elder pushing his new student to his absolute limits. He tells the boy to draw out the wild instincts from within and use them to their fullest potential. The old warrior notes that while Zero's power is good, his movements are far too obvious and easy to predict. He easily counters the boy's attack, sending him flying once again with a well-placed strike. Argel tells him to stop thinking and simply follow his impulses, embracing his feral nature. He urges the boy to fight with the feeling that he will smash everything in his path, unleashing his true power. As they continue their intense spar, the boy's attacks become faster, more fluid, and far more unpredictable. The elder notes that his student's attacks are no longer just focused on his head, but have spread out to his entire body. He realizes the boy has started using pure intuition instead of his head, a sign of his growing talent. Argel is impressed, admitting that being able to immediately put his teachings into practice is a rare gift. The two continue their intense training, the sounds of their battle echoing through the desolate prison. The elder then reveals the second method for becoming skilled in combat. He lands another powerful blow, sending the boy flying backward in a burst of fiery energy. Argel explains there is a dimensional difference between those who have tasted suffering and those who have not. He continues his relentless assault, forcing his student to endure the pain and push past his limits. The young boy struggles to defend himself, his body battered and bruised from the intense training. Finally, he collapses on the ground, completely exhausted and unable to move another muscle. A warm, orange glow begins to emanate from his body, surrounding him in a fiery aura. The elder watches with a thoughtful expression, wondering if the boy will be able to return to his normal state. The fiery energy intensifies, consuming the boy's body as the transformation reaches its peak. Argel kneels beside him, deciding that the third method will have to wait for another time. He looks down at the unconscious boy, wondering how much he will be able to grow from this point on. As the boy sleeps, the old warrior admits to himself that he is looking forward to seeing his student's progress. Zero finds himself in a dream, a vision of an old memory of his younger self running to his mother. He sees himself fishing with his father, a peaceful and happy time from long ago. The dream then shifts, and he remembers a time when his father always favored his big brother. He recalls the feeling of being unloved, watching his father and brother walk away without him. The young boy stands alone in the darkness, the weight of his sad memories pressing down on him. Tears stream down his face as he realizes all he wants is to see his father again. Back in the real world, he wakes up to find himself sitting beside Argel, who notes his fast recovery. The elder explains they are on the rooftop of a building and tells him to focus on the prisoners below. The boy uses his newly enhanced senses, his eyes glowing as he looks down at the prisoners below. He wonders why everyone is sleeping, and the elder confirms that it is now sleep time for the inmates. Arjul then asks his young student how it feels to have overcome the prison's no standing system. He explains that only those who have truly faced the darkness within themselves can overcome the prison's regulations. The young boy looks at his hands in awe, wondering if he too can now be like the old man. The elder silently notes that the merchandise is growing much faster than he had originally anticipated. He thinks that the boy's growth means he should be exchangeable for the medicine needed to sustain his own body. The old warrior clutches his chest, knowing his weakened body has overused its strength for far too long. He thinks about all the recent troubles, like the Necromancer saddle and the whip woman Rosna. He also recalls his recent encounter with the demon worship sect's powerful commander, Darkus. The elder concludes that meeting the dangerous people he has avoided for so long was likely inevitable. Elsewhere, an inmate carefully polishes his large blade, preparing for the coming event. Other prisoners are also getting ready, with one leader telling them not to let their guard down. Martin reflects on his 3 years of survival, feeling he has now grasped the intuition needed for this day. He stands ready and determined, vowing to skillfully get through the coming challenge once again. Sero notices that everyone seems busy, and the elder confirms that today is release day. The old warrior explains it is a system designed for prisoners to anticipate, and many will die today. Suddenly, they both look up, a strange and unexpected phenomenon catching them completely off guard. Sero recognizes the light from roll call, and the elder notes that the release is starting sooner than expected. A system announcement declares that the release begins now as a large, glowing portal appears in the air. Arjal and Sero look up as a massive, high-tech structure materializes in the sky, bathing them in a brilliant, colorful light. A towering pillar of golden, hexagonal energy erupts from the ground, identified as Lower Corridor 8972. The other prisoners are engulfed in the intense light, their faces a mix of shock and confusion as the event unfolds. The elder explains that this is the Creelease, a system that forces all inmates out of their cells and into the corridors. He warns that the corridors are dangerous places, filled with monsters, but they also present a great opportunity. Arjul then senses a new threat approaching and tells Sero to get ready as the first wave of enemies arrives. A group of small goblin-like creatures armed with sharp daggers suddenly charges toward them from the light. A massive horde of the creatures swarms out from the portal, their high-pitched shrieks filling the entire area. The young boy is completely overwhelmed by the sheer number of monsters charging directly at them. The old warrior calmly tells his student to prepare himself, as today they will finally experience real combat. Other prisoners also face the horde of monsters and seem ready to fight for their lives. Sir prepares for his first real battle, and Arjul watches him from behind, ready to guide him, with his gaze focused. The boy warns that the goblins are approaching quickly. Then the old warrior instructs him to fight desperately if he does not want to die. And so the confrontation begins with inmates and creatures fighting throughout the corridor. The small green creatures attack the prisoners without showing any mercy. His master yells at the boy to stop thinking and just start acting. Following the advice, the young blonde enters the fight and fights fiercely against the monsters. He needs to focus and follow his instincts to eliminate all enemies. At that moment, the only thing that matters to the boy is to survive at any cost. Suddenly, in the middle of the battle, he finds a small goblin that looks like a child. The protagonist hesitates for a second, and this small distraction proves dangerous. Taking the chance, other monsters attack him from behind, and he realizes the trap. The creature that looked like a harmless puppy now smiles evilly. But before the worst happens, Arjul suddenly appears and saves his disciple from the goblins. The old warrior then warns him not to hesitate, and to get used to killing. He explains that in solitude, if you don't fight to live, you end up dying. With this, the boy understands that he needs to discard his emotions in order to survive. Without wasting time, more goblins advance towards the young man, ready to attack. Now, with more determination, the boy fights with 10 times greater skill. The master says there is no reason to fear the large number of enemies that appear. He explains that goblins are too weak and don't even have a combat class. Meanwhile, other, more experienced prisoners eliminate the creatures without difficulty. The entire corridor is covered with the remains of the little green monsters. For the old warrior, these creatures are just stepping stones to everyone's growth. Arjul continues to observe the situation with a calm and analytical expression on his face. After the battle, the survivors continue their way through the gigantic prison. Then they come to a fork in the road, and one of the inmates asks which way to go. One of them suggests the wide path to attack better, but the other prefers the narrow one to avoid fights. The one with glasses then asks if the other doesn't know that strong monsters guard narrow passages. The old man just listens to the two's argument, thinking it was exactly what he expected. The big guy gets angry and says he has more experience, but Argel knows they're both lying. Suddenly, the master warns Sir to follow him when he runs, leaving the boy confused. Without warning, the old man sets off at high speed, and the young man follows right behind him. The other two prisoners remain behind, completely shocked by the old man's attitude. After running a lot, the boy stops, exhausted, on the ground, and asks the master to wait. The boy asks why they separated, and the old man explains that together they would be easy targets. The best strategy, according to him, is for everyone to look for cells separately to survive. He remembers that those men insisted on taking his group with them, which is very strange, because even after 3 years of solitude there is one emotion that no one forgets: fear. However, the old man says that he saw no fear in them, and the boy becomes thoughtful about the situation. Sir then asks if there is something behind the actions of those suspicious prisoners. Suddenly, a door opens in front of them, and Argel praises his disciple's good question. In another corridor, Darcis notices that the old man and the boy are still alive nearby. He feels lonely because they are gone, and so he continues on his way with his group. Soon after, the two groups meet again, and Darcis asks what happened to Margan, but the old warrior interrupts him and tells him to stop that pathetic act. He then flashes back to when he first met Darcis and Margan in prison. Argel reveals that he already knew their identities and asks if they serve the vampire King Enduras. With a smile on his face, Darcis confirms that the master was right about his identity. The vampire says that the count ordered him to be escorted, but Argel simply refuses to go with him. Then the old man says that if his master wants to meet him, he should come to him personally. The man, irritated, calls him insolent and says he will not accept a refusal from him. The young sir is completely frightened by Darcis's sudden change. He feels an oppressive aura coming from the group that grows stronger by the second. Then the boy remembers the smell he smelled before and discovers his vampire identity. Seeing the imminent danger, the blonde boy activates his beast transformation to fight. Darcis realizes that the young man is a werewolf, and Argel asks if that's all he sees. The old man explains that the boy's brother was a werewolf, but Sir's blood is different. His true identity is that of a pure, blooded lycanthrope, and not a common werewolf. A mark with the number 3 appears on the boy's body during his transformation. The young lycanthrope releases a powerful red aura, readying himself for battle. Argel is impressed by his student's rapid growth, even in a crisis. Seeing the boy's new form, the old warrior recognizes his great talent for fighting. With that, the master holds his weapon firmly, preparing to enter into action. The white-haired man says he will take care of the weaker henchmen in the enemy group, and then he sends his disciple to face the leader of the vampires named Beckham. The vampire laughs and asks if the boy thinks he is a worthy opponent for him. But during the confrontation, the man realizes that the young man is stronger than he imagined. Meanwhile, Argel fights all of Darcis's servants alone without difficulty. In an unexpected move, the old warrior cuts his own hand with his dagger. He sprays his blood towards the enemies, surrounding him to create a distraction. The vampires are shocked to see the red liquid flying towards them. The sweet smell of blood drives them mad, and they completely lose control. With that, the servants begin to fight among themselves, desperate to drink the blood. Seeing the scene, Darcis becomes irritated by his subordinates' lack of control. The vampire kicks the young lycanthrope away and takes him away from the fight for a moment. He understands why the Count wants someone like Argel, because his blood is very special. The vampire leader has a hungry expression, thirsty for the liquid. He says he will kill the old man quickly so he can taste all his blood. The vampire decides to eliminate the boy first, since he considers him an obstacle. With a scream of fury, the man with glasses charges at the young lycanthrope. He advances with all his strength, ready to end the blonde boy's life. Darcis smiles confidently, believing he has already won the fight against the boy. But in a quick movement, the young man manages to counterattack and wound the vampire in the chest. Surprised by the unexpected attack, the vampire leader doesn't understand the situation. The boy's arm regenerates, and Darcis asks what kind of creature he really is. With a look full of determination, the boy prepares to continue the battle. Then he lands a powerful punch on the vampire's face, knocking him away. Even injured, Darcis seems to enjoy the fight and praises his opponent's strength. Suddenly, the old warrior appears and pierces the man's chest with his dagger. The vampire coughs up blood in disbelief at what just happened to him. In his last moments, the man cannot believe that he was defeated so quickly. In just an instant, Argel managed to eliminate 80 of his men single-handedly. Darcis realizes that from the beginning, he never had a chance of beating the old master. Sir observes the vampire's lifeless body, lying on the ground after the intense battle. The master remembers that 3 weeks ago the boy was unable to do anything by himself. Now he can fight like a warrior, and the young man feels the power of unity. Argel says he has improved, but is still not at the ideal level to fight alone. They are late, so the old man tells them to hurry to the cell, while Sir changes his clothes. Elsewhere, a subordinate apologizes for the delay caused by the release event. His master Lord Endura says it doesn't matter, and sends him away while he drinks a liquid. The Lord mourns Beckham's death and the loss of their telepathic connection. He underestimated the situation, because he didn't expect old Argel to be in that place. Sitting on his throne, the noble vampire reflects that he will need to be more careful next time. With an irritated look, he wonders when he will finally be able to drink his special tea. Meanwhile, in another hallway, a trio of beastmen defeat a giant monster. Holic, an eagle man, boasts that they can now defeat mid-level ogres. Menlock, the rhinoceros man, complains that he is starving and wants to eat soon. Lucas, the werewolf beast, tells them to eat some food, because returning to the cell is the priority. And so, the group of beastmen continues their way through the dangerous prison. The werewolf thinks about his brother Sero, and believes he is alive, because he is with Argel. With determination, he promises that he will not die either, and that he will meet his brother again. Back to the main duo, Sir fights against new enemies with strange armor. The boy asks the master who are these guys who attack them non-stop. Argel explains that they are black magic users from an organization called Demon Worshippers. The old warrior realizes that the group is chasing him, and the boy wants to know why. The master says he doesn't get along with their boss, and that they need to leave before they find Darkus. The pair then continue walking down the corridor, but the young disciple looks confused. Suddenly, the oldest stops and says he feels something unpleasant because they encountered a ghost. The master reveals that the ghost's name is Goose and orders the boy to fight him. Sir is shocked by the order, but Argel encourages him, saying that it will not be difficult for him. Trusting his mentor, the boy activates his beast transformation for battle. With a determined look, he believes that the old man's words are always right. Then the young man charges forward and lands a powerful kick on the creature's face. Surprised that he was able to attack Sir, he believes he might be able to win this fight, but the monster retaliates with a strong punch to the ground, creating a large shockwave. The boy is impressed by the ghost's strength and lets out a roar of fury. The old man explains that there are several reasons why prisoners die to ghosts. One of them is a simple lack of skill, but there is an even more decisive reason. He goes on to say that the sinister aura they emit is actually pure fear. Since everyone is class 4 or higher, the weakest are crushed by terror. But this rule does not apply to those who have already faced inner darkness. Even so, the boy continues to fight the creature, but is at a disadvantage. However, Sir does not have an inherent ability, and therefore cannot defeat Goose. With that, the ghost takes the chance and launches an energy attack at the boy. Seeing the danger, the master steps in and blocks the blow to protect his student. After the battle, the young lycanthrope falls to the ground completely exhausted and injured. Argel then prepares to counterattack and deliver a powerful blow against the monster. He releases a large blue energy, and the narrator reveals that this is his inherent ability. Suddenly, a woman appears and freezes the ghost with her mysterious ice power. Argel says that some worms appeared, but it was not a problem, and asks if she saw her sister. The girl confirms that she did and says that she passed on the old man's memories to her sister. With a smile on her face, she reveals that her sister was very happy with his message. Lying on the ground, the boy observes the scene and wonders who that mysterious woman is. Still in his lycanthrope form, the young blonde remains confused by the situation. He is intrigued by the white-haired woman who appeared out of nowhere to help. The boy is shocked that she defeated the monster with a single blow and wonders how she created the ice. He also notices that she seems to be very close to the old warrior who trains him. The girl asks for help finding her cell, and Sir thanks her for saving him from danger. However, she seems to completely ignore the boy and continues walking alongside the old man. The young man is embarrassed and realizes that the white-haired woman doesn't like him at all. Elsewhere, a woman complains about the situation and wonders if it is right. This is Solverin, a demon worshipper who wanted a decent partner for the mission. But her partner is the Necromancer Saddle, and she doesn't understand why she was chosen to be with him. Angry, the woman punches him in the face because he acted on his own. She watches the old man from afar, says he should have died instead of becoming a fool. But as these are orders from Commander Darkus, she needs to continue and think about the reward. Suddenly, the swordswoman feels something strange, and her eyes widen in surprise. She realizes that several subordinates have died and understands that they have finally found the old man. Excitedly, the woman tells her group to hurry up and attack the old man before everyone else. Meanwhile, the trio encounters more black magic users in the prison corridor. Argel then asks if the woman found many of them, and she confirms that she did. The boy thinks she is strong and wonders if one day he can be like them both. Curious, the young man asks the girl when she met the old white-haired master. He looks at her with an anxious look, waiting for an answer to his questions. The woman notices his interest and thinks she was just like the boy when she was young. She remembers that she met the old man 7 years ago and that he treats everyone the same. Then the girl says that she and her sister were falsely accused of eliminating their parents. In prison, you had to fight to survive, and the two were about to give up everything. But at the worst moment, the old warrior suddenly appeared and saved the two sisters. With his help, they managed to get to the arena and fight for their lives inside. Hearing the story, the boy is shocked by the mysterious woman's tragic past. Suddenly, the master interrupts the conversation and says that the worms never stop appearing. At that moment, the young man realizes that someone is approaching them quickly. He feels a suffocating aura similar to that of the ghost and sees a group in the hallway. Salvarin then reveals himself and says that Lord Darkus had the old man captured. The woman and her group of demon worshippers face the trio, ready to attack. Without wasting time, the swordswoman orders her subordinates to bring him to her. With that, the skeletons release their dark energy and prepare for battle. The white-haired woman then tells the old man that she will take care of everything herself. With that, the skeletons launch several energy spheres towards the trio. She says she wanted to show her savior how much she has grown and become stronger. Then the girl jumps into the air and releases a powerful wave of ice against the enemies. With a serious and determined look, the woman advances into the middle of the battle without fear. She moves quickly between the skeletons, dodging all their attacks. In an instant, the girl creates a huge explosion of ice and defeats everyone at once. Argel watches the fight and thinks about how time flies watching her fight like that. He remembers when she and her sister were just children crying together in prison. Now the young woman fights, masterfully using her ice powers without hesitating for a second. With a blow to the ground, she freezes everything around her and defeats more enemies easily. The old man praises her, saying that she has grown up well and now has the refinement of a lady. The woman then reveals the name of her skill, which is called Snow Flower Armor. With this power, she can create ice armor to protect herself from attacks. The ice armor covers her entire body, making her ready for real combat. Even so, she still wonders why the old man saved her in the past, and he doesn't answer. But now she just wants to enjoy the moment of fighting alongside her savior. The boy watches the battle, impressed by the power of the white-haired woman. He asks the master how she can fight like that, but Argel remains silent. The old man then explains that Alice's power is an ability that manipulates attributes. The boy is confused by the term attributes, and the master prepares to explain. Then he reveals that in the universe, there are the attributes of light and darkness. In addition, there are lightning, wind, fire, water, and earth, totaling 7 elements. He says the boy didn't notice, but Goose had the attribute of darkness, and that's why he was strong. The young blonde man becomes thoughtful as he understands more about the powers and their attributes. Suddenly Argel feels a new threat and wonders if they brought that creature. Alice also realizes the danger and is shocked by the presence of the new enemy. Soon after, a terrifying creature known as the Decapitator emerges from the shadows. The ghosts of loneliness are not easy to summon and require great power. The Necromancer saddle is responsible for the summoning, as he has a special talent for it. The old man tells Sir to stay in front of him, because the Necromancer is dangerous even though he is useless. Fighting them all would be too much, so the master decides to use a new strategy. He clasps his hands together in a strange gesture and says he will help his disciple in battle. With that, a bright light shines, and the old man announces that he is going to connect with the boy. This connection is a type of telepathy that allows direct communication between the two. The boy hears the master's voice in his head, and the old man warns him that it will only last 10 minutes. Without wasting time, the creature advances with its sharp blade towards Argel. The master tells the boy to take the chance to learn, because his stamina will run out. The old man dodges the attack with ease, while the young lycanthrope watches the fight. Sir stands up and asks what exactly he needs to learn from that situation. The old man says it may be early, but he will extract the attribute from within the boy. Stunned by the idea, he hears his master warning him of an attack coming from the left. Following the telepathic warning, the young man ducks and manages to dodge the giant blade. Meanwhile, the white-haired woman fights bravely against the other dark creature. She manages to block the monster's attack with her sword, creating several sparks. Then the warrior leaps into the air and attacks the creature with her ice blade from above. The girl realizes that the situation has become complicated with so many enemies around. She knows that defeating the Necromancer would be enough to end the creature's summoning, but the other black magic users don't let her get close to the summoner. With that, she decides to deal with the mages first, and then focus on the main monster. The young woman advances with everything, eliminating several enemies with her powerful ice power. At that moment, the boy begins to have a strange vision in the middle of the intense battle. Exhausted, he tries to concentrate to understand what is happening to his body. The boy realizes that he can now feel something different coming from the creature attacking him. And not only that, but he also feels the same thing coming from within himself. The young lycanthrope stares at the monster and prepares for the enemy's next move. He can predict the intention and trajectory of the shadowy creature's attack. Using his new ability, the boy dodges all the blows with great ease. The protagonist manages to avoid each of the monster's attacks without receiving a single scratch. His master explains that this attribute allows him to feel and recognize everything around him. The old man reveals that the boy's attribute is wind and grants him more freedom. With a confident smile, the young lycanthrope feels that this is the perfect power for him. From afar, Solverin watches the battle and is impressed by the strength of the enemies. She recognizes that the woman is the little ice flower and fears that she will be defeated. The swordswoman has heard rumors about the Ice Warrior, but this is the first time she has seen her. She knows the woman's sister is a prisoner of the arena and understands her motivation. Darkus's order was clear, and she expected a difficult mission, but not this difficult. Seeing the situation, she decides that she also needs to help in the battle against the two. But suddenly the woman realizes that the old man, who was fighting with Alice, has disappeared. Before she could react, Argel suddenly appears and attacks her from behind. The master lands a powerful blow on the woman, but she manages to defend herself in time. Using her skills, she moves quickly to escape the old man's attack. The swordswoman activates her armor of suffering and praises her opponent's speed. With that, the old warrior prepares for the next phase of the battle against her. A new enemy with red armor appears to protect the woman from the attack. Argel then changes his target and attacks the Necromancer with his sharp and fast dagger. The man in red armor appears in front and blocks the blow with his body. The old man says he foresaw that she would try protect the summoner who controls the monster. The woman wonders who Argel is and why the Legion commander is obsessed with him. The man in red armor regrets not leaving the black magic training sooner. The man in armor says he should have gone out wandering instead of training, but the old warrior warns him that he would not recommend this life choice to anyone. Meanwhile, the giant creature attacks with force and throws the young lycanthrope away. The boy is thrown through the air, unable to defend himself from the monster's powerful blow, but he quickly recovers and manages to block the shadowy creature's next attack. At the same time, the master fights fiercely against the warrior in red armor. The enemy is shocked by the old man's speed and wonders if he is an aura knight. He knows that these knights maintain their strength even in old age thanks to mana training. However, he cannot feel any mana energy coming from Sir's master's body. The warrior then scoffs that the old man's dagger doesn't even scratch his armor. Unfazed, Argel advances with an attacking stance, ready for the next move. The old warrior's arm glows with a mysterious and very dark energy. In a moment of panic, the man in armor realizes the great danger that lies ahead. Then an explosion happens, and the warrior's armor is completely destroyed. The man can't believe what happened and looks at his chest in complete shock. He realizes that the old master also possesses the attribute of darkness and becomes terrified. The warrior in red armor looks up from the ground. Above him, an old man with long white hair floats menacingly, holding a small blade. He breathes heavily, completely perplexed. Concentrating, he realizes he can't sense any dark attributes coming from his opponent. The elder's expression remains stoic. The warrior becomes even more confused, finding no trace of an elemental presence in the man. This leads him to believe that the thin, oddly shaped sword in the old man's hand must be the key to his power. He concludes that the blade is no ordinary weapon. A vibrant pink aura suddenly explodes around the warrior's body. Deciding to avoid melee combat at all costs, he activates a new ability, causing his armor to transform and pulse with energy. He unleashes his skill called Double Suffering Armor, a powerful defensive and offensive enhancement. He then launches a ranged attack, sending shadowy tendrils towards his enemy, but he curses in frustration when he sees that they are ineffective. He remembers being a notorious black magic swordsman outside of this place. However, now, he is in a panic against this mysterious old man. Unmoved by the dark magic, the elder advances calmly. The warrior wonders who this powerful figure could be. A feeling of unease takes hold of the warrior as the old man continues to approach without any sign of fear or injury. His glowing red eyes widen in disbelief and sudden realization. A feeling he hasn't felt in a long time begins to emerge. For the first time, he questions himself, wondering if what he is feeling right now is really fear. As if in answer, a colossal shadowy skull with glowing red eyes materializes behind the elder, radiating immense pressure. Cornered and terrified, the warrior grabs a nearby hooded figure, believing this is his only way to survive what is to come. He activates a desperate technique called voluntary suicide, thrusting his hand into the sacrifice to fuel his next attack. This black magic attacks opponents by offering sacrifices. The power of the magic grows in proportion to the quality of the offering. The sacrificed man, a companion named Saddle, is consumed by dark energy, his body writhing in unimaginable pain. A horrifying roar escapes Saddle's mouth as dark magic completely takes over his body, transforming him into a vessel of power. He knows that if Saddle dies, the ghosts will stop, but he can't worry about that when his own life is at stake. The other members of the group watch in horror. A young man with blonde hair and a woman with purple hair appear completely shocked by the events. The beast advances towards the young man, who is still on the ground, completely vulnerable to its fury. But just as the creature is about to attack, it suddenly stops, much to the young man's confusion. He doesn't understand what's happening, but he feels immense relief, realizing he was narrowly saved. Meanwhile, the red, armored warrior channels the dark energy of his sacrifice, preparing his final attack against the elder. The purple-haired woman looks at the elder with concern, saying she believes he will win, but begging him not to get hurt. The warrior ignores her, raising his sword and summoning the darkness to obey his command. With a confident smile, he commands darkness to fall upon his enemy. A massive storm of dark, magical energy erupts from his sword, crashing towards the old man. The elder looks up calmly, completely unmoved by the overwhelming magical attack approaching him. But to the warrior's surprise, the attack seems to have no effect, and he is suddenly thrown backward. He lands on his feet, looking pleased with the power he just unleashed, thinking it was a good attack. He confidently believes that his massive attack should have been more than enough to kill his opponent. However, when the dust settles, the old man is revealed standing completely unharmed amidst the lingering dark energy. The elder comments that it has been a while since he has seen black magic of this caliber. He tells the warrior that he is talented, but reckless. He continues, explaining that using black magic like this means offering one's soul to demons. The elder warns that the warrior's soul will soon become a meal for the Void constellation. Deciding the situation is problematic, he declares that it all ends here. The warrior falls to his knees, completely defeated. In disbelief, the warrior asks why his black magic doesn't work on the elder. He desperately demands to know why, his eye reflecting the elder's hand reaching out to him. The sacrifice Saddle is brutally consumed by dark magic, his eyes widening in horror as he dies. The elder remains standing, his expression unchanged, holding the small blade as the battle abruptly ends. The purple-haired woman watches from a distance. The elder floats calmly above the spot where the dark magic user was defeated. A blue aura surrounds his head as he looks at his companions, asking if everyone is safe. The woman approaches, worried about him. He reassures her, but notices that she doesn't seem well. Nearby, the young man with blonde hair, who was almost attacked, is breathing heavily, still shocked by the recent events. The elder suggests they leave the area, as the danger may not be over. The woman agrees, offering to help the boy. They exchange a knowing look, agreeing on the plan to evacuate the dangerous area as quickly as possible. From afar, a new figure watches them leave. He seems impressed by the old man's performance. The woman notices the stranger's presence and is on guard. The elder calms her, assuring her that they are not enemies. He turns to the newcomer and greets him, saying that it has been a while since they last met. The man, named Aub, stands before a large group of followers, all dressed in similar robes. He smiles at the old man, commenting that it has been a long time, and that it is good to see him again under these circumstances. The woman identifies the group as the Fanatics. The mention of Aub's name brings a look of concern to the elder's face. The Fanatics are a group dedicated to the 11 constellations, including faith, hope, and love. They purify heretics through massacres. The woman wonders how many prisoners Aub killed behind his peaceful smile. Aub explains that he was cleansing the filthy aura of the demon worshippers, stating that he has already taken care of the area. He then bows respectfully to the elder, saying that they should have done so, and offers his gratitude. She is shocked to see a Class 6 prisoner bowing. She realizes the elder has deep connections to the Fanatics. The elder ignores her surprise and begins to chant. A golden, healing light forms between his hands. The young man marvels as he feels his fatigue disappear. Aub explains that it is his blessing magic, a thank you for his help. He then turns to the elder, offering to bless him personally. The old man refuses, reminding Aub that his magic doesn't work on him. As the group prepares to leave, Aub asks the elder to stay safe, stating that he is someone who must survive. The elder reflects on how he is always worrying about the lives of others while living in solitude. Aub declares that he does not mind dying as long as the elder survives, promising to help him whenever necessary. The old man, the woman, and the boy walk away down the corridor, leaving Aob and his followers behind. Aob watches them leave, believing that the elder is the one who listens to his wishes. He then kneels, stating that he would be happy to become a sacrifice for the old man's sake. He and his followers kneel in prayer, affirming that there are many like them in this place who seek the righteous path. They consider themselves to be those who recognize their own foolishness, and therefore, the elder's journey is of utmost importance. He begs the elder to listen to his wishes, his face serious and full of determination. As the trio continues walking, the boy notices that the old man looks downcast and asks the woman what his relationship with Aob is. She explains that she has been with the elder for about a year, but does not know his exact relationship with Aob. She expresses her surprise that he would associate himself with such an infamous group as the Fanatics. She adds that the elder told her that he doesn't like people who believe in constellations, which leaves the boy confused. She clarifies that believing in a god is not inherently bad, but the way the Fanatics do it is. The constellations appoint representatives to act on their behalf, sometimes using their power to save the weak. They finally reach their destination. The elder announces that they have arrived. The boy thanks the old man as they stop in front of a door with the number 5251 displayed in neon. The woman looks at the door in wonder, thinking how amazing it is no matter how many times she sees it. She wonders how the elder knows the corridor's paths. She offers to visit him again, but he dismisses her, saying it's too much trouble. She hugs him, asking him to stay healthy. He responds by telling her to take care of herself too. For many, corridors are terrifying places where they might die. But for the elderly, they are paths to freedom. She watches the old man and the boy walk away down the foggy corridor, a slight smile on her lips. Later, the boy spots a nameplate with the number 3498 on it, excitedly telling the elder that it is there. He recognizes the number, exclaiming that it is their cell. One day after the liberation began, he and the elder returned to their cell. Several days passed, but none of the other members of his cell returned. The days turned into 5, and the young man found himself waiting alone. Looking back, he realizes that many things have changed for him. Before, he could do nothing but hesitate, always afraid and insecure. But now he fights and kills without hesitation. Even his appearance has changed. Above all, he began to think about many things, feeling a change in his perspective. He feels ashamed of his past actions, a new sense of self-awareness taking hold of him. The elder approaches, noticing that the boy's spirit has begun to awaken along with his body. The young man seems confused by the elder's comment, not understanding what he means. He tells the elder that a strange smell is approaching. The old man calmly identifies it as Margan. He explains that Margan must have used his true power, and the fall smell is the smell of pills. The elder reveals that Margan is the same as Beckham from the beginning, and asks the boy if he knows what to do. He answers yes, with a dark determination in his eyes. In this place called Solitude, the rule is simply kill or be killed. A large crowd of prisoners gathers in anticipation. The elder and the boy stand together, waiting for the arrival of Margan and his group. A large, muscular man with blue facial markings arrives, calling the elder Big Brother and expressing relief that he is safe. He claims he's been worried since they parted ways in the hallways, and is happy to see him again. Suddenly, the blonde-haired young man attacks one of Margan's men, crushing him with a powerful kick. The large man is shocked by the sudden attack, shouting the young man's name. The young man stands up, transformed and exuding power. Margan is shocked by the change, asking if he is the same person. One of Margan's followers calls for help, begging him to stop the blonde-haired youth. The elder intervenes, telling Margan to end the charade. He accuses him of trying to lure them into becoming ingredients for pills. Margan is silent for a moment, his friendly facade disappearing. His expression twists into an evil grin, and he asks the elder when he realized his plan. The elder raises his blade, the blood of his recent victims slowly dripping from it. He and the young man stand amidst a pile of bodies, having dispatched the rest of Margan's followers. The elder tells him that everyone is making a big mistake if they think they can just take him. He lists several powerful figures, such as the demon worshipper Darkus, the vampire king Enduras, and the mafia king that Margan serves. He confidently declares that none of them can take him away. Unless they visit him in person, they will never find him. Margan watches, his face a mixture of shock and anger. The elder decides that the situation has dragged on too long, and that it is time to end it. He charges, his blade ready to deliver the final blow. Elsewhere, a regular report is sent from a computer terminal, suggesting that someone is monitoring events at the prison. The warden of Planet Solitude Prison, Shkryasan Arglager, introduces himself. He asks if his superior, the Master of Solitude, Lord Kraisman, has reviewed the report he sent about Algiers. A hologram of Lord Kraisman appears, confirming that Algiers continues to carry out massacres. He claims they need to readjust the Algiers prisoner's asset valuation. Kraisman issued orders to place Algiers in isolation for 2 weeks. He smiles mischievously, thinking about how the deal with Algiers, hidden for 4 years, finally came to fruition. The lycanthrope king is on his way to Solitude to check on the merchandise, and Kraisman intends to provide Algiers with free pills. Arglager confirms that he understood his superior's orders. He reports that Algiers' relationship with the main prisoners has not changed much, except for a few details. He also notes that the commander of the Demon Worshipper Legion appears to be pursuing Algiers, which could lead to conflict. Kraisman is unconcerned, believing that Algiers is not someone who would be defeated by the prisoners. He is confident that Algiers will survive, as he always has, and even finds it amusing to watch him. Kraisman remembers a detail from the report on Algiers' health. Arglager confirms that Argel's health is poor and that he can barely breathe without the pills. He estimates that at this rate, Algiers will die in 6 months, or maybe even 3. Meanwhile, the blonde-haired young man is alone in a large room, his powers beginning to manifest. He can feel the changes within himself, his senses sharpening to an incredible degree. He can now sense even the smallest details, like a mechanical insect crawling across the floor. He can sense the world around him with unprecedented clarity, even the falling drops of water in fine detail. He realizes that this new ability is his awakened attribute, a unique power that will define his future. He continues to train, punching and kicking metal pillars with incredible force. He lands gracefully, feeling the power flow through him, a result of his relentless training. He reflects on how incomparably stronger he is now than he was a month ago. But despite his new strength, he remembers his inability to even scratch a ghost during a previous battle. He remembers the Elder's words, realizing that he needs a power stronger than his opponents to win. He wonders how he can strengthen his wind attribute, believing the Elder must know the method. He decides to trust the old man and wait, running around the prison complex to continue his training. He is determined to become stronger, so that he will not be a burden when he meets his older brother again. As he trains, the Elder watches from afar, sitting in silent meditation. Suddenly, the young man stops, hearing the sound of the cell door opening. A female voice calls out the Elder's full name, Argel Rastos, and he wonders if she is looking for him. The prison guard demands that Argel leave immediately. The young man notices her uniform, but wonders why she is here. The old man appears behind her, announcing his presence. She reprimands him for approaching silently. He ignores her and calls out to the boy. The guard finds this boring and decides to introduce himself. She declares herself Class 6 Guard Taiji and states that she won't say it's a pleasure to meet them. The young man is shocked, realizing that a Class 6 guard is many times stronger than Sister Alice, who was Class 5. A spectral image of a monstrous, multi-eyed creature looms behind Taiji, showing the immense power it possesses. The Elder asks if the lack of new prisoners in recent days is because of him. Taiji confirms that he noticed and orders him to follow her. The old man sighs, finding the situation troublesome and complaining that his body has been heavy lately. Taiji wonders what he's up to. She recalls that her superiors instructed her not to interfere unnecessarily, but they failed to mention that he would be so uncooperative. The Elder proposes a wager. If Taiji defeats the boy in a fight, he will follow her. If not, he will remain in peace. The old man seems confident in his proposal, a slight smile on his lips. The young man enters a fighting stance, orange flames enveloping his arms as he prepares for battle. Taiji laughs at the suggestion, finding it annoying. She decides not to hold back and finish quickly. She needs to finish quickly in return. Her eyes meet the young man's, both determined to win. She attacks, her speed incredible. The young man narrowly dodges, his expression a mixture of shock and effort. Taiji is surprised that a mere Class 3 managed to dodge her attack. She also notices that he is using the wind attribute. She wondered why the Elder made such a hopeless bet, but realizes that he is training the boy, giving him combat experience. Deciding she needs to teach the young man a lesson, she prepares a more powerful attack. The boy's face contorts in terror as he feels the immense pressure of Taiji's next attack. She attacks him with a blade of wind, its speed and power much greater than before. He is shocked to see that her attack is also of the wind attribute, but at a completely different level than his. While his power could barely scratch her, it cut through her defenses effortlessly. He grits his teeth in frustration, but a new determination ignites within him. If she can reach this level of power, then so can he. A maniacal grin spreads across his face. The Elder watches, pleased with the boy's reaction. The battle seems to have stimulated him well. However, he also realizes that he has angered the guard. Taiji, now irritated by the boy's smile, unleashes her true aura. Her atmosphere changes. The young man braces himself, knowing he needs to focus on dodging her attacks. The Elder instructs him to hold on somehow, even if he cannot win. The young man is shocked by Taiji's sudden burst of power. The young man is shocked that he cannot feel her attack, unable to react in time. Taiji hits him with a series of rapid punches. his overwhelming power leaving him defenseless. He coughs, the force of the blows leaving him breathless and in pain. The pain is unbearable, and he finds himself unable to move under its relentless onslaught. He realizes that she is simply too strong for him, her strength far surpassing his own. Teiji watches the young man fall, his body enveloped in an orange aura of diminishing power. She sighs, stating that she didn't kill him, and that therefore the bed is hers. The elder accepts defeat, agreeing to follow her peacefully. As they walk away, the young man wakes up and runs after them, carrying the old man on his back. Teiji is irritated by their detour, but the elder ignores her, saying there is a place he wants to visit. She is incredulous at his audacity, but he instructs her to follow him, as he is on the way. Too tired to argue, she agrees, deciding not to oppose him carelessly. She realizes that causing trouble will only reduce her rest time. The young man wakes up in a bright place, wondering where they could be. The elder explains that they are in a place for endless training, the physical training room. The room is filled with muscular prisoners exercising, their cries of exertion echoing throughout the room. Two prisoners talk, one pleased with his upper body workout, and looking forward to leg day. Elsewhere, a spotter yells at a weightlifter, scolding him for not counting his reps correctly. The elder addresses the young man, calling him by name, Ciro, and instructing him to listen carefully. He explains that he must go with the guard, so Ciro will stay there and train, promising to return in 2 weeks. The elder asks if Ciro can handle it alone. Ciro responds with determination, promising to show the old man that he can handle it. The elder remembers Ciro's defeat by Teiji, but senses a new determination in the boy. He tells Ciro that if he trains hard here, his wind attribute will become many times stronger. Ciro smiles confidently, believing he can do it. He clenches his fist, determined to become much stronger. With a serious expression, Ciro promises the elder that he will definitely become stronger. The other prisoners in the training room watch the guard arrive, wondering what she wants. Teiji turns up his nose at the smell of sweat, finding self-deprecating men disgusting. She tells the old man that she will wait outside and urges him on. He agrees to come out soon. A large, tattooed prisoner approaches, recognizing the elder. He complains that the elder never keeps his promises and asks why he brought Ciro there. He reminds the elder that prison is not an orphanage. Ciro recognizes the man as Brother Dulram, a Class 5 prisoner, and prepares for a possible fight. Dulram looks at Ciro, commenting that the elder brought some very young merchandise this time. The elder says it's been a while, but the place is too noisy to talk. Dulram makes a gesture, and the other prisoners immediately fall silent. The sudden stillness leaves the prisoners shocked and apprehensive. The elder tells Dulram that this time he wants him to train Ciro. Dulram, knowing that the elder will not listen to his conditions, suggests that they make a deal. Dulram declares that his conditions are always the same, a duel in exchange for training the boy. The elder scoffs, asking if Dulram hasn't learned after getting beaten up so badly last time. However, he agrees to the deal. He says he doesn't have time, then takes his leave, warning Dulram not to fill the boy's head with strange ideas. He tells Dulram he's counting on him before leaving with Teiji. Dulram calls Ciro, telling him to follow him and threatening to beat him. Ciro nods nervously, a bead of sweat running down his face. Teiji takes the elder to solitary confinement, reflecting that the prisoner's reactions were always predictable. Some begged to be saved, others went mad and laughed non-stop, and some even took their own lives. She opens the door, wondering why the old man is so relaxed. He seems at home in the darkness, as if it were his own home. He thanks her for the escort and dismisses her, telling her that the guard's waiting room is just over there. He swallows hard, his gaze intensifying. He turns his body tense and ready to attack. Suddenly, he grabs her, covering her mouth to muffle her screams. She struggles, shocked by the sudden attack, wondering what is happening. He drags her into the darkness of the cell, leaving her confused and afraid. Meanwhile, Ciro collapses from exhaustion, unable to continue his training. Dulram scolds him for his poor posture, but acknowledges that he put up with a lot for his first time. Ciro realizes that Dulram's threat was just a way to make him exercise intensely. He observes the other prisoners, realizing that their only concern is exercising with proper form, which will allow him to focus on his own training. Ciro feels like an idiot for thinking he could focus on physical training, only to be thrown into a fight. Other prisoners watch from the stands, intrigued by the sudden fight. A prisoner asks if Ciro is the one the elder brought, commenting that he looks too young to be a beast. His opponent, Boxer Vincent, a Class 4 prisoner, enters the arena, declaring that he will not be held responsible for any damages. Dulram instructs Vincent to break Ciro's arms and legs, assuring him that the boy will recover quickly. The fight begins. Vincent runs towards Ciro, ready to attack. He leaps into the air, delivering a powerful kick towards Ciro, who watches with wide eyes. Ciro releases his own aura, the flames enveloping him as he prepares to counterattack. Dulram watches with interest, wondering if Zero's aura is a beast transformation. He knows that beasts can't transform until they're 20 and doubts Zero learned it on his own. He concludes that the elder must have taught Zero, but wonders why the old man didn't teach him too. The fight begins, the two exchanging quick and powerful blows. Zero notices that each of Vincent's punches has weight, and that his movements are incredibly fast. He remembers fighting much stronger enemies in the corridors. He also remembers the elder's warning about using attributes, which consumes stamina and mental strength. He decides to use his attributes as little as possible to conserve his strength. He realizes that this fight is not for survival, but a test of his abilities. A red beam shines in his eyes as he prepares to unleash his power. He deploys his wind attribute, a green aura surrounding him. He launches a gust of wind attacks at Vincent, pushing him back with his newfound strength. Vincent is in disbelief, unable to comprehend how his opponent suddenly dodged all of his attacks. The young fighter immediately closes the distance, launching a powerful counterattack. Zero's kick connects with devastating force, launching the muscular boxer into the air. Vincent falls hard to the arena floor, bruised and bleeding from the powerful blow. With incredible speed, the young man lands another kick, sealing his victory over his much larger opponent. The prisoners watching from the side of the camp watched with serious and surprised expressions. Their initial casual attitude disappears, replaced by shock as they witness the unexpected outcome. Even Delaram is stunned, admitting to himself that the boy's strength is beyond his imagination. Vincent, who had recently been promoted to Class 4, lies completely defeated and unconscious. Doram realizes that the boy possesses an attribute that only SS class prisoners can master, taught to him by the old man. He wonders if the old man chooses who to teach based solely on race or talent. Unable to accept that he has been ignored, the tattooed man steps forward, determined to find out for himself. He tells the boy that now it is his turn to fight, as his own powerful aura flares around him. Prisoners can master, taught to him by the old man. He wonders if the old man chooses who to teach based solely on race or talent. Unable to accept that he has been ignored, the tattooed man steps forward, determined to find out for himself. He tells the boy that now it is his turn to fight, as his own powerful aura flares around him. The tattooed man attacks without warning, throwing a powerful punch towards the young man on the ground. Suddenly the boy is surprised and wonders what is going on with this whole situation. He then dodges his opponent's blows and begins to think that maybe this is some kind of test. The blonde knows that using attributes uses up life force, and if he overdoes it, his life could be at risk. Even so, he is determined to endure until he passes out to prove his worth in this place. Using his wind attribute, the boy moves quickly, dodging the big guy's attacks. Then the fighter finds an opening and manages to land a powerful punch to the opponent's stomach. But the enemy's blows are very strong, and the boy realizes that the strength of a Class 5 is absurd. The tattooed man clenches his fist tightly, preparing for an even more devastating attack. With no chance of defense, the big guy lands a punch straight to the young man's face, throwing him away. With the impact of the blow, the boy falls to the ground, completely stunned by the strength of his opponent. Even though he has fallen, he understands that this is the process to become stronger, and begins to get up. With that, the boy gets up again with his flames lit, thinking he will be able to handle the training. He thinks of his brother Lucas, and promises that he will no longer be a burden if he can overcome this challenge. Determined to win, the boy unleashes the full power of his wind attribute, no matter what happens. His appearance changes slightly, and he advances towards the prisoner with incredible speed. The tattooed fighter is unable to react in time, and receives a powerful blow to the side of his body. The force of the attack is so great that the big guy is thrown to the side without being able to defend himself. Then the young man grabs his opponent with a mad look while the other begins to cough non-stop. To finish the fight, he throws him to the ground with all his strength, creating a huge crater there. The young fighter grits his teeth, feeling tired. But the fight is not over yet. Suddenly the big guy stands up with his eyes shining, and prepares a powerful counterattack. With a serious expression, the tattooed man looks at the boy, showing that he will not go easy. Then the boy uses his wind attribute to attack several times, but the opponent seems to withstand it. The blonde is shocked and realizes that the enemy's attacks are based on wild instincts. Seeing that his opponent blocked all of his blows, the boy couldn't believe what he saw. At that moment, the tattooed man decides to use his own attribute and releases an earth energy. He activates his technique called Red Earth Armor, and his power increases much more. In a memory, the old man tells the prisoner that he cannot walk in the darkness to train. Back in the present, the big guy understands what the old man meant and finds the reason ridiculous. The fight ends and the tattooed man compliments the boy, saying he has good darkness. Confused, the boy asks if his uncle also trained to walk in that dark place. The opponent makes a funny face, seeming not to understand the young fighter's question. A short time later, the two are sitting, and the big guy suggests a meditation method. He says he also got stronger like that, but the blonde still has a confused expression. The tattooed man laughs and tells the boy not to say anything stupid, because he has also meditated before. The boy explains that the old man spoke about walking in the darkness within oneself, and not in the dark. Then the prisoner is shocked to realize that this is Elder Argel's training method. With a desperate look, he begs the young man to teach him this technique too. The big guy asks if there's a problem, but the boy doesn't know what to answer. The boy thinks he has only trained for a month and wonders if he can really teach anyone. At that moment, he remembers what the old man told him to be careful about one important thing. The elder warned him that it is dangerous to try to help someone who has fallen into inner darkness. With a serious expression, the master told the young man not to even look at that darkness. Even with his guardian's warning, the boy still seems to be thinking about what to do now. The big guy begs the boy to teach him, saying that this was his goal all along. The blonde thinks that the old man will only be back in 2 weeks, and that maybe he can teach him a little. Meanwhile, the tattooed man panics, thinking he pushed the boy too hard. Then he kneels formally in front of the boy, waiting for a silent answer. The young man gets nervous, not knowing what to say, but ends up making an important decision. He agrees to teach what he knows, and the big guy gets excited and wants to start right away. Surprised by the rush, he orders the prisoner to close his eyes and not imagine anything. The boy instructs him to focus on his breathing, inhaling and then exhaling as slowly as possible. With his eyes closed, the boy guides the tattooed man through this meditation process. The big guy concentrates, sweating a little, and then the young man says they're going to start. Suddenly, the boy's eye opens in fright, as if he had seen something terrible. The scene then shifts to the guards' rest area in a futuristic city. We see a woman sweating heavily, appearing to be relaxing in some kind of sauna. This is Class 6 guard Teiji, who is sitting down enjoying his rest. With an irritated look on her face, the woman thinks of the name Argel Rastos with a certain disdain. The woman remembers when she took the old man to solitary confinement, and he suddenly stopped. Suddenly, the prisoner grabbed her from behind and covered her mouth with his hand. Then the guard got scared and thought the old man had gone completely crazy, but the man asked for silence and told her to look ahead carefully. He then asked if she could see what was there, and her eyes widened. In front of them appeared a ghost of a corridor, with a very scary appearance. The creature was gigantic, and was covered in an aura of very powerful red rays. The monster had multiple eyes and sharp teeth, showing that it was no ordinary enemy. Back in the present, she asks if he saved her and finds it strange, because he had an amulet. It was a sacred item made to ward off ghosts, and prevent them from attacking people. The old man says that the amulet failed, because the monster was strong, but she didn't notice anything. The woman finds this strange, because she has never heard of an amulet that didn't work. In another memory, the monster is seen being sucked into a sort of red barrier. After that, the hallway was empty, and the two stood there in silence for a moment. The guard says he heard rumors about him and asks who he really is. The prisoner says that if she wants to know the truth, she needs to look for the clerk. She is surprised and asks if he is talking about the clerk called Bemlio. The girl thinks Bemlio is a Class 9 guard and doesn't understand how a prisoner knows him. The old man says he can answer some questions and asks her to close the door. He then enters the dark cell and leaves her alone outside, deep in thought. Back in the sauna, the guard thinks about the name Argel Rastos and the secrets he hides. The scene changes to the boy standing in a dark place and wondering what happened. He then realizes that the tattooed man is not there and starts looking for him. Staring into the darkness, the young man wonders if the training he attempted went wrong. Then the boy calls out to his uncle Dauram, but receives no response in return. Suddenly, the old man appears and says that he warned him not to do that, but he didn't listen. The boy is shocked and asks how the old man got there, because he must have been in solitary confinement. The tutor explains that their agreement allows him to enter the boy's mind whenever he wants. He shows the prisoner floating and says he is not yet ready to walk in the darkness. According to the master, the big guy's mind is very colorful and prevents him from seeing the real darkness. If this continues, the tattooed man will not return to normal and will end up losing his life. The young man panics and the elder tells him that now he needs to take responsibility. With wide eyes, the boy is completely terrified by the situation. At that moment, dark bands begin to hold the boy's body tightly. The old man says that the greater the responsibility, the stronger the person becomes. With a glow in his hand, he lifts the boy and tells him to feel the weight for a while. The guardian clenches his fist and says he will lock the young man in the darkness for ignoring his warnings. The bandages tighten around the boy, who screams in pain and begs for the elder's forgiveness. But the old man just stands there with his purple aura glowing as the boy suffers. Meanwhile, the tattooed man continues to float unconscious in the middle of that darkness. The old man looks at Darum and says he has grown a lot since they met. Before, he was hesitant because he didn't accept himself, but now he has a calm judgment growing in him. The elder thinks that perhaps it is because the prisoner has become the manager of the training room. With that, he decides he can help the tattooed man get out of this mental darkness. The master says that things change when you are desperate enough for them to. He also mentions that he has come very far in his own journey, and so he understands. At this, the oldest prisoner turns and calls out to something in the darkness. Suddenly, a giant, shadowy creature appears in front of him with a blank stare. The monster stares at the old man with its glowing eyes and a strange mark on its face. He tells the creature to wait a little longer, as there is no need to rush now. The old man continues telling the giant being to wait just a little longer before acting. He waited for 60 years, so he can wait a little longer without any problems. Then the prisoner says goodbye to the creature, saying that he has found a new hobby. With that, the monster shrinks and disappears into a purple portal in front of the elder. The scene shifts to the workout room, where a muscular man is sweating heavily. He stands with his hands on his hips, looking proud of his physique. The prisoner takes a deep breath of relief after finishing his exercise routine. This is Pyram, a Class 5 prisoner who thinks he's the best person in the training room, but he thinks that if Darum trains that boy and learns from Argel in return, so Delarum will grow beyond what he can keep up with, and that worries him. Pyram decides he needs to separate Darum and Argel to maintain his position of power. He picks up a purple orb and comes into contact with a mysterious group of worshippers. The muscular man warns that the old man was there, but only the boy who followed him remained. With a smile, he asks if the group already knows what he wants in exchange for the information. So the man agrees to hand the young man over to them in exchange for a mysterious favor. With the plan in mind, the prisoner goes to the room where Darum is and calls him. He opens the door, introducing himself as Pyram, and announces that he is entering the place. Inside, he finds the two meditating and asks if the boy was with the other. But Darum doesn't respond, and the man is confused by his fellow prisoner's silence. The fighter then suggests teaching the newbie the rules and offers to take care of it. He notices that the young man doesn't react either, and wonders what's going on there. Interpreting the silence as a yes, he picks up the boy and finds everything easier than expected. The scene changes to a hallway, where a group of hooded figures are waiting. One of them questions whether they can trust the muscle brain, but the other tells him to wait. One of the members gets excited, thinking that if they catch the boy, they will notify the commander. Someone asks what he's laughing at, and we see someone's feet approaching. Pyram arrives carrying the young man and asks if they brought what he asked for. One of the hooded men looks at the boy and confirms that he is the target they were looking for. In response, the other opens a briefcase showing 5 vials with a red liquid. The muscular man smiles, and the man says they will be in touch for more cooperation in the future. With the briefcase in hand, Pyram says goodbye to the hooded men and leaves satisfied with the agreement. One of the mysterious men complains that the other only thinks about muscles and decides to take the boy. At this moment, Darum finally wakes up from his meditation, appearing to be in intense pain. With an expression of agony, he screams loudly as his whole body begins to sweat profusely. Looking at his own hands, he realizes that this was the first time he had felt something like this. He understands that meditation has taken him to an experience similar to visiting another world. Then the prisoner remembers his past victories, and that the lights were his memories. All his former glories trapped him in a cycle of nostalgia that prevented him from moving forward. But instinctively, the tattooed man realized that his past was just the past. He finally understood that he was stuck in his memories, and that's why he couldn't move on. It was at that moment that the fighter saw a small darkness forming beside him. Behind all his colorful memories, he finally found the path he was meant to follow. A shadowy figure called out to him from within the darkness, and he wondered who it could be. With a sweaty face, the big man wonders if the person who called him was his future self. Suddenly, one of his fellow prisoners runs up to him, calling him Big Brother. The man arrives in despair and tells the tattooed fighter that something terrible has happened. The other asks if Pyram challenged him to a duel, but the reason was quite different. His partner reveals that his rival just beat up all his friends for no reason. The prisoner gets up furiously and sees Pyram standing in the middle of his friends lying on the ground. With a look of hatred, he says that if the other wanted to fight, he should have gone and talked to him. Pyram taunts his rival by saying that it is too late and that he will finish him off right there. With an insane smile, the muscular prisoner says he had a great experience. Daram's companion tries to warn him of the danger, but the big guy only cares about the experience. In this, the tattooed fighter says he also had a memory of the dark figure he saw before. With a determined look, he thinks that now he can finally test what he has learned. The scene then changes to the young boy, who is on the ground surrounded by the hooded men. One of the group members wonders what the boy is mumbling to himself there on the floor. Suddenly, the boy attacks and finishes off one of the hooded men in the blink of an eye. Shocked, one of the men cannot believe the scene that just happened in front of him. Then, the young man stands in the middle of all the mess with a cold and frightening expression. The boy says he finally found a hobby after being bored for a long time. In fact, the old man's spirit is behind him, curious to know what it's like to possess a werewolf. The hooded men wonder how that boy managed to do so much damage. One of them says he didn't know how strong the young man was, but the other points out an important detail. On the boy's neck appears the number 50, one surrounded by a dark aura with a purple energy. The boy stares at the men with an empty look and without any emotion. His eyes glow red, and he seems to be analyzing the situation very coldly. Argel was actually watching the young man's emotions spread through his body. The desire to jump and end it all was the violence that only purebloods possess. The old man thinks that this emotion has extinguished the werewolves and regrets not using this body forever. So the elder decides to make the most of the young man's body and prepares to fight. The boy couldn't go beyond the limit of transforming into a beast, but the old man could. With his mental power, Argel easily overcame the barrier and unleashed his full potential. He transforms into a giant werewolf beast covered in golden flames and power. With a fierce look, the creature stares at the hooded men, ready to attack. The beast then leaps towards its enemies with impressive speed. The hooded men try to defend themselves by creating dark barriers to protect themselves. But the monster easily breaks through their defenses with its giant hand and claws. In an instant, the creature wipes out several enemies, scattering everything across the ground. Using his sharp claws, he attacks mercilessly, leaving a trail of destruction. One of the men screams in pain as he is grabbed by the werewolf, who doesn't stop the attack. After the massacre, the beast stands in the middle of the chaos with a purple aura of power. The old man returns to human form and realizes that he has difficulty with delicate movements. The boy then picks up the clothes of one of the fallen men so he can dress himself again. He complains that clothes are a problem every time he transforms into a beast. The elder senses Jacob nearby and decides to get magical clothes that won't tear. After resolving this, he plans to go after Delaram to see how he is doing now. The scene changes and the prisoners in the training room are shocked by one thing. They see Delaram on the ground, completely defeated, and they can't believe what happened. One of them says that the two were on the same level, but the flow of the fight suddenly changed. Delaram's attack patterns have become more varied, and he seems to have learned something new. The speed of Pyram's blows also increased greatly, making the fight more intense. One of the prisoners comments that the two look like monsters, and that it gives him the creeps. But unfortunately, at the end of the fight, the tattooed man ends up falling to the ground defeated. Pyram defeats him with a final blow and wins the battle with a devastating kick. Falling to the ground, Daram regrets having been arrogant and not having trained more. Then suddenly he hears the boy's voice in his mind and is very surprised. He recognizes the voice as old Argel's and wonders if it's telepathy. The possessed boy confirms and asks if the fighter is going to continue getting beaten like that. The prisoner remembers the shadow he saw and realizes it was the old man all along. Desperately, he begs the old man to continue teaching him because he doesn't want to be beaten anymore. The boy smiles and says he likes to see the man begging after throwing away his pride. The fighter despairs, thinking that if he closes his eyes, he will take a punch and lose. But the boy says he can only move forward if he overcomes his fear, just like in the darkness. The big man gets punched in the face and realizes the old man's words are true. With a determined smile, he decides to trust the elder's words to win the fight. The tattooed man closes his eyes and concentrates on the fight as the old man taught him. Argel instructs him not to look with his eyes, but to feel his opponent's presence. He needs to feel the enemy's attributes, attacking intent, and fighting spirit. With this, the prisoner prepares to read the flow of the battle and counterattack. The old man tells him to read the flow and then use it against his enemy. With his eyes closed, the big guy dodges the blow and lands a punch on his rival. Then he finishes the fight with an attack that throws his opponent to the ground with everything. The other prisoners are shocked by the tattooed man's turnaround in victory. Even though he was wounded, the winner smiled with satisfaction at the result of that great battle. He finally understands what it feels like to be trained by the legendary prisoner Argel. On the ground, the other fighter just stares at his opponent without being able to do anything else. The tattooed man approaches his rival and says that the fight is finally over there. But suddenly the loser stands up with a purple energy coming out of his chest. The winner is surprised and doesn't understand where all that power came from. The rival says he will destroy the training room, since he can't be the strongest. Delarm recognizes the light and yells for everyone to get out of the room as quickly as possible. The prisoners run in despair, while the possessed boy watches the scene. Suddenly the man's head explodes, and a voice says that enough is enough. The possessed young man appears in front of him, with his claws out ready to attack. With a dirty face, he calmly says that he doesn't like too much noise in the place. The prisoners stare in disbelief as the tattooed man, Doram, kneels on the ground, defeated by the blonde youth's dark purple aura. Dalaram grimaces, suspecting the boy's strange power comes from drugs supplied by the demon worshippers. One of his men rushes forward, demanding to know what the kid did to their leader. But another prisoner stops him, telling him to leave the old man Argel alone. He explains that the boy is actually Argel, pointing to the prisoner number on his neck as proof. A close-up reveals the number 51 tattooed on the youth's neck, confirming his true identity. The other prisoners are completely stunned by this shocking revelation, their faces frozen in confusion. Argel explains that he was frustrated in solitary confinement, so he borrowed the boy's body for a while. Dalram finds it hard to believe, knowing possession is impossible. But in a place like Solitude, anything can happen. He asks if this is how Argel raises his merchandise. But the old man just warns him not to stick his nose where it doesn't belong. Suddenly, a beast, like prisoner, runs in, shouting that something terrible is happening. He reports that hundreds of demon worshippers are swarming the facility, attacking them from the outside. The prisoners panic at the sudden assault, realizing the attack must have been planned for this exact moment. Fueled by rage, Daram prepares to fight back, vowing to kill all the intruders himself. However, he suddenly coughs, the effects of Argel's earlier attack taking their toll on his body. The tattooed leader collapses to his knees, as his subordinate desperately tells him not to move. Doram curses the attackers, realizing they launched this invasion because their previous plan with Pyram failed. Argel remains silent, calmly observing the chaos and the panicked reactions of the other prisoners. He senses the change in plans, concluding the demon worshippers have come to devour everything in their path. The prisoners worry, noting this is a full-scale invasion happening at the worst possible time, just as their leader is injured. One of the prisoners rallies the others, telling everyone who can fight to follow him and protect the training room. His subordinate tries to stop Daram, warning that his wounds will worsen, but the leader refuses to stay down. He knows they could handle a few black magic users, but facing an army of hundreds is a hopeless situation. The tattooed man realizes that if they lose, all the prisoners in the room will be hunted and offered as sacrifices. He knows support from other areas will take hours to arrive, so they need a way to minimize the damage immediately. In a last-ditch effort, Doram turns to the meditating youth and asks if the old man will help them. Argel remains silent for a moment, his piercing red eye staring forward as he considers the desperate plea. Then, the blonde youth slowly rises to his feet, surprising the large man standing before him. The prison leader nervously offers a deal, promising he will do absolutely anything if Argel saves his men. The youth listens intently to the offer, his expression unreadable under his blonde hair. After a moment, Argel calmly asks the man if he is prepared to offer his soul. The tattooed man is visibly shocked, his face frozen as he tries to comprehend the chilling request. He remembers the old man can possess bodies, and realizes he could easily take his soul by any means necessary. Gritting his teeth, the leader concludes that there is no time for hesitation in this dire situation. He knows the demon worshippers will steal their life force and souls with black magic anyway. The result is the same no matter what, and he cannot stand by and watch his loyal subordinates die. With a determined look, he accepts the deal, offering his soul in exchange for the safety of his family. The youth looks down for a second, before simply stating that their deal is now made. The prison leader gets ready to fight alongside him, but Argel calmly tells him to stay where he is. Before the large man can even ask why, the youth delivers a swift chop to his neck, making him cough. Doram collapses, unconscious. The youth tells his men to lay him down, assuring them he has prepared something for the intruders. With that, the cloaked boy launches himself forward, diving straight into the heart of the chaotic battle. The training room is a blur of motion as prisoners clash with the invading demon worshippers, their magical attacks lighting up the hall. In a burst of dark energy, the youth's arm transforms into a monstrous, clawed appendage, ready to strike. He unleashes a powerful shockwave, blasting away a group of robed figures and clearing a path through their ranks. The transformation continues as a massive beast tears through the invaders, its claws and fangs ending them with brutal efficiency. Now fully transformed, a huge werewolf with blonde fur and glowing red eyes stands amidst the carnage, roaring with power. The demon worshippers are stunned by the beast's speed, realizing their black magic has no effect on it. One of them remains confident, believing the creature will eventually run out of stamina, ensuring their victory in the end. The prisoners, however, are being overwhelmed, with many falling under the barrage of relentless magical attacks. One of the men reports that their front line has fallen, but the acting leader orders them to keep fighting as there is no escape. The werewolf observes the situation, concluding that the prisoners will be wiped out first if the fight remains in this cramped room. He decides to clear the area from the outside, leaping through a massive hole in the wall to face the remaining forces. His piercing red eyes narrow, scanning the battlefield as he prepares for the next wave of attackers. The cultists outside are shocked as the monster emerges, realizing it caused their losses inside, and immediately ordering its capture. The beast glances back at the doorway, where the sounds of the desperate battle inside can still be heard. The fight has been devastating for the prisoners, with about half of the training room's members already taken down. The floor is littered with the bodies of both sides, a grim testament to the ferocity of the invasion. Now surrounded by a fiery aura, the werewolf feels the strain on his host, knowing he needs to let the boy's body rest soon. The flames fade, revealing the young man standing alone among the defeated demon worshippers. The demon worshippers realize the creature was a werewolf. Seeing it revert to a boy, they believe he is tired and vulnerable. Seizing their chance, the cultists coordinate their attack, launching a barrage of dark magic at the young man. The youth stands his ground, unfazed as he is surrounded by the incoming storm of purple energy. The robed figures press their assault, their glowing red eyes focused on their seemingly exhausted target. But a sudden, massive explosion of fire erupts from behind them, engulfing the attackers in flames. Their bodies are brutally torn apart by the blast, caught completely off guard by the unexpected counterattack. A colossal, armored bear man now stands over the carnage, wielding a massive, blood-stained axe. The blonde youth looks up at the towering figure, calmly stating that he arrived at the perfect time. Argel explains that when he searched through the darkness, this new ally was the closest one he could find. The summoned bear man, named Anton, expresses that he is honored to have been chosen by him. With his weapon raised, Anton announces he is awake and awaits his new master's orders. Sometime later, the tattooed leader Dorum is seen with his face heavily bandaged from his injuries. He slowly awakens, with his subordinate relieved to see him conscious. The leader immediately asks about the enemies. Remembering the demon worshippers, he frantically demands to know what happened, but his man hesitates to answer. The subordinate grimly explains that their casualties were terrible, with several factions being completely wiped out. Dolram's eyes widen in horror, as he is told that Aaron's group and Mikey's faction are all dead. His companion tells him not to move, but the injured leader pushes past him and walks out into the hallway. They are met with a horrific scene of devastation, the corridor filled with the bodies of the fallen. His man explains that despite their heavy losses, they managed to protect the training room and win the fight. He reveals that their victory was all thanks to old man Argel, making Dorum wonder where he is now. Doram's subordinate holds up a note, explaining that Argel went to the corridors to handle the remaining demon worshippers. The injured leader takes the note and laughs, remarking how typical it is of the old man to simply write he is going for a walk. The piece of paper contains just a few characters, confirming the casual and understated message left behind. Meanwhile, in the dark industrial corridors of the prison, mysterious blue flames flicker ominously. Argel and his large bear companion, Anton, walk silently through a hallway littered with the bodies of their enemies. A closer look at the towering bear reveals he is now missing one of his eyes, a fresh wound from the battle. The youth turns to look at his companion, who continues walking forward without saying a word about his injury. Argel asks what happened to his eye, but Anton dismisses it. The old man insists he cannot ignore it. The bear changes the subject, asking if his master is okay. Argel says he has recovered enough strength to visit the warden. Anton hesitates before speaking again, holding something out that makes the young man look up in curiosity. He presents a small, glowing plant, explaining it is life extension grass that he wants to give to his master. The old man knows this item is not easily obtained. He asks if a creature called Shimiani was responsible for the lost eye. Sweating nervously, the bear insists that he is fine and that he won the fight against the creature. Argel knows Shimiani should have been stronger, realizing Anton must have grown immensely to achieve such a victory. The bear's growth is a result of his hard work, offering his soul and walking through his own inner darkness. But Argel scolds him, asking how many times he has to be told not to risk his life so recklessly. He says he does not want Anton getting hurt or wasting his body on unnecessary things, showing genuine concern. The bear bows his head, apologizing for his shallow thinking. Argel accepts and tells him it is time to move on. Their footsteps echo down the metallic floor as they continue their journey deeper into the prison corridors. Up ahead, a lone silhouette appears in the mist, standing silently at the far end of the long hallway. A man in an impeccable butler's suit appears from the shadows, asking if he is speaking with Lord Argel. Anton growls and raises his axe defensively, but the youth calmly stops him and confirms his identity. The messenger kneels, placing a small device on the floor. As he explains, he brings a message from his master. A bright blue light emanates from the device, forming a flickering hologram as the butler asks for understanding. The hologram reveals a long-haired man, vampire King Endoras, who is unable to leave his cell and had to send a messenger. The youth taunts him, asking if he is afraid to come out. The kin admits it, stating that fear has kept him alive. Anton watches quietly, knowing a vampire king avoids pointless fights, but he is still a powerful figure. The holographic king begins by apologizing, claiming his subordinates caused trouble against his own intentions. The old man is immediately suspicious, aware that someone with the title of vampire king would not bow his head so easily. The digital figure of Endoras stands silently for a moment, his presence strangely dominating the dark corridor. He understands that the vampire must have come prepared, even willing to damage his own reputation to achieve his goal. The youth's glowing red eyes narrow slightly as he listens, trying to discern the true motive behind the apology. Endoras bows his head, admitting his mistake and expressing his desire to make amends, so it will not happen again. But Argel sees through this, asking what his other business is. The king admits he can no longer hide his intentions. He then speaks a name, Darkus, which causes the young man to look on with a hint of curiosity. The vampire king then asks him to forgive Darkus, a menacing figure with scars and red markings across his face. The youth immediately refuses. The king seems to have expected this answer, lamenting his comrades will die again. Argel turns to leave, telling the vampire to keep acting noble as he always has done in the past. He then adds a chilling warning, stating that if he fails, one of Argel's friends will come to kill him. With the conversation over, the two companions walk away, leaving the flickering blue hologram alone in the darkness. The vampire king's hologram watches them leave, realizing he was completely unable to stop Argel. He smirks to himself, thinking how even a powerful king like him was rendered powerless against the old man. As Argel and Anton continue down the corridor, a sudden red laser beam streaks past them from an unknown source. The king wonders who could possibly stand in the old man's way as he marches forward with such determination. Meanwhile, a group of demon worshippers kneels in another part of the prison, seemingly waiting for something. The vampire reflects that sending more forces is useless, like moths flying straight into a deadly flame. The memory of the fiery werewolf transformation is still fresh, a testament to the boy's terrifying power. His thoughts are filled with images of the bloody massacre that took place in the training room just before. The two powerful beasts fought side by side, crushing anyone who dared to oppose their overwhelming might. Their combined strength was unstoppable, leaving a trail of destruction and defeated enemies in their wake. Anton and a new beast, like Ali, walk together. The bear notes the enemies are stalling by splitting their forces. Back in the now empty corridor, the messenger's holographic device lies abandoned on the floor. Suddenly, a hand picks it up and activates the device. It replays the image of Anton, just as expected. A man sits on a pile of corpses, wondering why Anton sided with the Exercise Alliance and the Wolf Boy. But a sinister grin spreads across his face as he decides that their reasons ultimately do not matter. He states that with the corpses he collected, he has gathered more than enough fuel for his plans. Now, sitting atop a mountain of bodies, he is confident he has become strong enough to defeat even Anton. He is pleased that his target came to him instead of him having to search, making his job much easier. Captain William, a demon worshipper, calls for the beasts to come quickly, ready to offer the kid to Lord Darkus. Anton and his wolf, like companions, sprint through the prison's desolate corridors, their powerful strides echoing in the darkness. They leap down from a high ledge, descending into a vast, dark chamber where a grim scene awaits them below. The two land with a heavy thud, one with a booted foot and the other with a beastly paw, ready for confrontation. A man sitting atop a pile of bodies casually welcomes them, announcing that his preparations are now complete. The wolf man growls, demanding to know if he is the black magic user who orchestrated the attack on Training Room 99. The captain confirms this, noting the youth's mature speech. He plans to capture him as an offering for Lord Darkus. However, his true interest shifts to the armored bear, questioning his motives for being there. He taunts Anton, asking if he hopes to get on Argel's good side by saving the young boy. The captain's face contorts with irritation as he stares down his silent, unmoving opponents. Finding their silence boring, he unleashes a sinister purple aura and threatens to turn the bear into a trophy. Anton recognizes the power level, realizing his opponent is a formidable Class 6 prisoner. From the dark energy, the captain summons two massive constructs, a stone golem and a mechanical beast. With a wild grin, the demon worshipper spreads his arms, eagerly declaring that it is time to play. The battle begins instantly as the summoned monsters charge forward, one targeting the bear and the other the wolf. The hulking stone golem swings its massive fist, aiming a devastating blow directly at Anton. Meanwhile, the mechanical creature unleashes a barrage of purple energy beams at the agile wolf man. Anton stands firm, meeting the golem's punch head on with his own powerful, armored fist. The impact of their blows creates a brilliant explosion, the shockwave echoing throughout the chamber. The golem quickly follows up its attack, whipping its long, thick tail in a sweeping motion, but the armored bear reacts in time, blocking the powerful tail strike with the flat of his giant axe. Anton analyzes his opponent's simple strategy, noting its attacks are heavy but not fatal. He understands the golem's true purpose is to slowly drain his stamina throughout the prolonged fight. The bear is momentarily surprised by the creature's speed despite its size, but he prepares a counter. Deciding to use the same strategy against it, he unleashes a powerful assault that shatters the stone golem. The creature is completely destroyed, its rocky remains now scattered across the dusty floor. Meanwhile, the wolf man agilely dodges a barrage of attacks from the other summoned beast. He leaps forward to strike back, but finds that his sharp claws cannot pierce the machine's tough armor. Realizing his normal attacks are useless, he knows he needs to change his approach to win. He decides to use a more powerful ability, even though he knows it will put a strain on his body. Channeling his energy, the youth deploys his wind attribute, transforming into a spectral wolf spirit. The mechanical beast's glowing eye seems to track the change, assessing the new threat before it. Using his new form, the wolf surges forward, his wind-infused claws tearing the machine apart. The captain watches from above, acknowledging their strength, but still confident in his own power. With a smirk, he gathers dark purple energy in his hand, asking if they truly thought the fight was over. The sinister aura flows from his hand, engulfing the shattered remains of his two defeated summons. The broken pieces of the golem and the machine begin to stir, pulling themselves back together. Anton and the wolf man stand their ground, watching as the parts begin to merge into a new form. A new, more menacing face emerges from the fusion, with glowing eyes and a sinister metal grin. The colossal hybrid monster looms over them, crackling with dark energy from its combined power. The newly formed creature immediately attacks, swinging its massive, reinforced arm down to crush them. The two companions easily block the creature's attack, their combined strength creating a powerful shockwave. The captain taunts them from his perch, challenging them to counterattack, now that his creations have merged. But the youth simply refuses, stating that at his age, he would rather rest than play games. The demon worshipper is stunned by this unexpected response, his expression frozen in disbelief. In a flash, the wolf man lunges past the monster and tears through the captain's body on the pile of corpses. He watches silently for a moment, his red eyes narrowing as he understands the situation. The youth realizes his opponent was just infusing dead bodies with life force and controlling them remotely. He knows the monster will keep regenerating unless he finds and eliminates the captain's real body. A voice taunts him from the pile of bodies, challenging him to find the true host among the dead. A sinister face with pale hair peeks out from the corpses, boasting that he cannot be caught or killed. He explains his soul black magic allows him to seal his spirit and move from one corpse to another. With a crazed, bloodshot eye, the real captain declares that this ability makes him immortal. Suddenly, the wolf man appears above a different body in the pile, his claws ready to strike. He swiftly tears through the pile of corpses, searching for the hidden enemy among them. Captain is shocked, demanding to know how he was found so quickly among the decoys. With a swift motion, a purple energy beam pierces through the true host's body. The real body of the captain is finally revealed, his face contorted in disbelief at his defeat. The wolf man grabs him, remarking how troublesome it is to deal with spirits that possess bodies. He explains he does not use magic but has gathered vast information. The captain then sees the number 51 on his neck. Realizing it was Argel all along, the captain's final moments are cut short as the youth ends him. The captain's disembodied spirit flees, its purple form streaking through the air above the fallen bodies. He knows running from Argel is futile, so he decides he has no choice but to summon a powerful entity. Refusing to accept defeat, the young-looking summoner gathers dark energy, determined to fight back. He understands that an ordinary spirit will not be enough to face his powerful opponents. He needs a vessel with strong emotions, someone who can stand against the two formidable warriors. As the wolf man and the bear watch, the destroyed monster on the ground begins to stir once more. The summoner decides to use the remaining corpses as fuel for a powerful being to hold them back. Anton watches as the black magic covering the bodies begins to condense into a single, dark point. Both heroes look on as a slender, horned figure rises from the swirling purple energy on the floor. The captain crawls away, confident that this new creature will create the perfect diversion for his escape. A tall, demonic being with red eyes, sharp claws, and long horns now stands before the two companions. The summoner knows he cannot control this evil spirit, but its power is his only chance. The newly summoned demon floats down from above, its dark aura filling the entire chamber. Anton is unimpressed, raising his axe and roaring that he will crush anything the captain summons. He charges forward, bringing his massive weapon down in a powerful, fiery arc toward the demon. The demon effortlessly stops the axe with one hand, its glowing red eyes fixed on the armored bear. A blast of purple energy erupts from the point of impact. Pushing back against the warrior's immense strength, Anton's eye widens in shock as he is completely overpowered by the demon's defensive move. The resulting explosion sends the massive bear flying backward across the chamber floor. Watching from a safe distance, the captain smirks, pleased with the power of his new creation. The captain is stunned to see Anton defeated in one hit, but he believes the demon can stall Argyll long enough. He thinks this is the perfect opportunity to escape, while the powerful beast keeps the wolf man busy. But Anton pushes himself up from the ground, roaring in fury as he calls out to his master. The summoner's initial relief at his perceived escape causes a drastic shift in his emotions, but his joy quickly turns to shock as he witnesses something completely unexpected unfold before him. Instead of attacking, the formidable demon suddenly drops to its knees on the chamber floor. The creature bows its head submissively before the wolf man, leaving its summoner utterly confused. Its voice trembles with fear as it tries to speak, its sharp teeth chattering nervously. The demon insists it wants no part in this conflict and begs not to be made to suffer. An image of an old man appears behind the youth as he asks for the demon's name, calling himself a guide. The powerful entity remains prostrate on the ground, completely subservient to the warrior before it. It claims its name is worthless and only asks for a promise that it will be spared from any pain. Anton injects a strange substance into his arm, preparing to follow his master's lead. Trusting the words of the Chosen One, the armored bear asks the demon what it truly wishes for. The creature simply asks to be allowed to withdraw and return to its own realm, away from the battle. With a gesture of gratitude, the demon begins to dissipate into a cloud of purple and black smoke. It vanishes completely, leaving the two companions standing alone in the now quiet chamber. Anton asks what just happened, but the youth assures him his broken ribs will heal soon. The armored bear wants to chase after the escaped summoner, but his master tells him it is not necessary. He reveals he contacted someone by telepathy when the fight began, ensuring the captain would not escape. He had instructed Doram to find and kill any prisoners attempting to escape through the nearby corridors. The tattooed leader and his men stand over the summoner's lifeless body, having carried out the order. The youth asks if Doram can hear him, and the man confirms he has finished the requested task. Argyll praises his work and departs, leaving the tattooed man to laugh at the old man's abrupt nature. The prison leader then sincerely thanks him for saving the training room, vowing never to forget this debt. Back in their human forms, the boy and Anton walk down another dark, metallic hallway. The young man yawns, feeling the strain of using his powers on his youthful body. He complains about being sleepy and asks his large companion to carry him for a while. Anton is honored and asks where his master wishes to go, ready to take him anywhere. The youth decides on the arena, knowing the guards will eventually come looking for him there. He sighs as the massive bear lifts him up, settling into his companion's strong, protective arms. Trusting his friend completely, he says he is going to sleep for a few days as Anton walks away humming. Meanwhile, the real Argyll stands in a dark void, his true form revealed as an old man. He reflects that 6 days have passed since he started using the young boy Sero's body. Worried about the boy's spirit, he wonders if he should release him before he breaks from the strain. The boy Sero appears, bound by dark energy, begging the old man to stop the possession. He cries that he cannot endure it any longer, but the elder says he cannot release him just yet. The old man leans in close, revealing that if he endures, he will be able to leave solitude. The promise of freedom seems to give the young prisoner a sliver of hope amidst his suffering. Sero is confused, but Argyll simply tells him he will understand soon before disappearing once more. After some time, the young boy's red eyes slowly open, his rest finally over as they approach their destination. They have arrived at a massive complex, filled with large, circular platforms surrounded by glowing blue lights. Anton notices his master is awake and offers him some freshly prepared food, which the youth gladly accepts. Wearing a surprisingly cute pink apron, the large bear adds the final touches to the meal. He is cooking, The boy quickly finishes the delicious-looking stew, leaving the bowl completely empty in just a few moments. He compliments Anton's improved cooking skills, and the bear proudly explains that he practiced. The youth's eyes widen for a second as he notices the cute teddy bear design on his companion's apron. Suddenly, a figure in a guard's uniform approaches them, interrupting their quiet meal. The guard delivers a message from the prison warden, summoning Lord Argyll to a meeting inside the arena. Anton is not surprised, thinking to himself that events are unfolding exactly as his master had predicted. The youth agrees, stating he had business there anyway, and tells the guard to lead the way. The two companions follow the guard, walking silently toward the massive, glowing arena structures. Meanwhile, inside a VIP room, a guard is sent flying through a wall in a blast of splintered wood. A man with long white hair and monstrous hands stands amidst the wreckage, questioning this welcome. A terrified guard finds it ridiculous that a prisoner is complaining about the level of hospitality. The imposing figure ignores the guard's comment and sternly demands to see the prison warden. This is the lycanthrope king Talahar, who is also revealed to be Ciro's father. The two companions follow the guard down a hallway to a large metal door. The officer then looks at the young man and remarks that he used to be just a boy, but has grown quite a bit. This is Talman, a Class 7 arena official, and he says the boy looks more imposing now. The possessed young man retorts that he's over 50 years old and asks them to stop treating him like a child. Anton realizes the guard noticed the possession, but is acting normally, thinking they're close. Talman explains that he didn't need a guide, but couldn't let the old man go alone, so he tagged along. At that moment, he stops and informs them that this is as far as he can go. The guard then reveals that the guest inside came only to check on the merchandise. The young man thinks it's a good thing the old man is in control, because this way, no one will be able to lay a finger on him. He then tells Anton to wait there as well, and his loyal companion immediately agrees. With that, the young man steps onto a platform alone, which begins to rise as the other two watch. Seen from above, the boy looks tiny as he ascends to meet the person waiting for him. The platform finally reaches a huge, luxurious hall with a long green carpet down the center. Suddenly, a massive explosion destroys everything, and a person appears amidst the smoke and debris. In the middle of the mess, Bemlio, a Class 9 clerk, appears, pleading with the guest to stop the ruckus. The white-haired man becomes furious upon hearing that the merchandise he wants is on its way. Bemlio tries to explain, saying they only store the merchandise securely and according to the rules. But Talahar scoffs, saying he acts like it's some noble job when he's just doing what he's paid to do. The two face off in the destroyed hall, and the boy's cloak appears, signaling his arrival. He observes the situation from a distance with a cold expression, his red eyes on high alert. The white-haired man looks to the side and calls out Ciro's name with a serious expression. With that, he is shocked to see his son's appearance and the strange energy surrounding him. Furious, he asks what happened, but Bemlio insists they did nothing wrong to the boy. Talahar then points at the boy and questions the strange presence inside his son. Bemlio thinks that, as expected of the Beast King, he can sense things beyond the physical world. The man gets irritated by the word specialist, but the possessed young man says there seems to be a misunderstanding. At this, the king of the lycanthropes suggests they talk to resolve the situation at hand. However, instead of talking, he attacks with full force, shattering the hall floor into 1,000 pieces. He closes in and orders the entity to get out of the boy's body now, before he ends him right then and there, with a swift move. The white-haired man grabs the young man by the cloak and lifts him into the air. The young man comments on the power balance, saying Talahar could crush him with a single finger. Suddenly, the boy's hand transforms into that of a werewolf and grips his opponent's arm tightly. The old man says the boy's body is very interesting and can do incredible things, just like his own. In that moment, the young man fully transforms into a giant, muscular werewolf in front of Talahar. The king of the lycanthropes is shocked and wonders how this is even possible. He knows that lycanthropes need to be around 40 years old and undergo rituals to transform like that. Since Ciro is just a teenager, he doesn't understand how the boy managed to pull off such a great feat. The man asks what he is, and the werewolf says that what's important is that his son is safe and has evolved. Talahar gets annoyed by the arrogance, and the werewolf says they need to have a deep conversation about everything. The two then face each other with intense stares, preparing themselves. Talahar finds himself in a dark void and realizes he's in a mental world as Argyll's voice confirms it. Then Argyll's true form appears, an old man in a prisoner's uniform, and Talahar wonders if it's really him. The king of the lycanthropes insists on knowing who he is, but the old man just asks if it would make any difference. The prisoner says he hates vague relationships and wants to make it clear whether they are enemies or allies. Talahar then asks a direct question, wanting to know who has been hunting the lycanthropes. The elder questions the reason for the question, and the king replies that the answer will define their relationship. The white-haired man falls silent for a moment, considering the old prisoner's proposal. Argel reveals that the ones hunting them are the cult of the constellation of light, showing its bright symbol in the sky. The king of the lycanthropes remembers the saying, "The enemy of my enemy is my friend." Based on this, he suggests that the two of them might be able to become friends and fight together against a greater evil. The old man points out that he still hasn't revealed his identity, and Talahar replies that he needs revenge. The legendary prisoner sits in silence, listening intently to what the other has to say. The Beast King explains that it's a deep, dark vengeance he's been seeking for a long time. Talahar then sits down next to him and says he likes this idea of vengeance he's proposing. The white-haired man says he needs no further explanation, and the old man thanks him for his understanding. Argel says his life was like darkness, full of fear and terror, but that Talahar's son is different. Even in a terrible place, the boy clung to hope and endured everything, just to see his father again one day. The king asks if he needs his son or a warrior, but the old man finds the question foolish. Talahar then questions if the prisoner expects him to act as a father would in this situation. A memory shows the old man and young Ciro meditating together in silence inside the prison. During training, the old man and the boy seem to face off in an intense hand-to-hand fight. In another moment, Argel teaches Ciro how to manipulate energy with his hands, showing off all his power. The boy also suffers during training, being tied up by bands of dark energy. Talahar admits that deep down, he might have thought the old man expected him to act like a father, but Argel cuts him off, saying that if he doesn't want his son, he won't be giving Ciro back. The king of the lycanthropes is surprised and asks what he meant by that bold statement. The elder comments that he thought humans were wise, but it seems he was mistaken about that. The white-haired man tells him not to complicate things and to just stick to the plan they agreed on. The two remain silent for a moment, surrounded by a mysterious green energy aura. Talahar lets out a sinister laugh, baring his sharp, beastly fangs at the prisoner. He finds the old man absurd for saying such bold and direct things without any fear of the consequences. The king then decides to end the conversation there and says he'll be back when the contract is over. Before leaving, he warns that he expects a different answer, or he'll rip Argel out of Ciro's body. The conversation ends, and Talahar leaves, leaving the young man and Bemlio alone in the luxurious hall. The young man thanks Bemlio for something he did, and says the work he put in won't be for nothing. The clerk says he'll pay for the service, and praises the boy for taking care of the Beast King's family. The possessed boy shows a pill, and says he'll hand it over when the solitary confinement is over. Bemlio understands and says his goodbyes, leaving the hall and the young man to his thoughts and plans. He then calls for Talman to guide the old man Argel out, and the guard immediately agrees. Meanwhile, Anton waits, sitting outside the arena with his axe on his back. Anton thinks that it's been over 10 years since he first met his master. In a flashback from 10 years ago, the galactic government invaded his planet, and he fought to protect his home. But in the end, he was captured and taken to solitude, where the pain of being imprisoned was unbearable. Over time, his pain turned to rage, and for several years, he fought like a madman against other prisoners. In one of those fights, he was gravely injured and lay on the ground, about to close his eyes for good. It was at that moment that an old man approached him amidst all the destruction and chaos. Argel commented that even on the brink of his end, the bear wouldn't give up on revenge, and he liked that. The legendary prisoner then extended his hand and offered him a deal to change his fate. With a touch to the bear's head, he promised he would show him what it felt like to see hope fulfilled. Back in the present, Anton reflects on this powerful memory while waiting for his master. He thinks the memory was a bit too sentimental and tries to push the thoughts away. Suddenly, the bear senses something strange and goes on alert for what's coming down the hall. A cold sensation and a bluish aura appear, indicating that someone powerful is approaching. A mysterious woman in a short skirt, with a sword on her back, walks toward him. She has long white hair and an icy aura enveloping her, showing she's no ordinary person. This is Alizea, a Class 6 prisoner, and she says he offered his soul to her master. The woman asks if he's the champion of G class, but he tells her not to talk like she knows everything. He says she doesn't understand their relationship, and she finds his confidence interesting, but lets it slide. Anton then starts to laugh, amused by the confident attitude of this mysterious woman. Alizea cuts the conversation short and asks how he managed to get into this restricted area. Anton retorts that he's not just anyone, as it was his master who personally brought him here. At this, the woman is surprised by the revelation and wonders if their master really brought him. He realizes she's jealous because arena prisoners can't leave, yet he gets to accompany their master. With that, Alizea tightens her grip on her sword's hilt preparing for a potential confrontation. With a glowing blue aura, she unsheathes her weapon and openly declares that she doesn't like him. The bear then grabs his axe and replies that the feeling is mutual, challenging her to a fight. He observes the woman's sword with a keen eye, finding the whole situation quite interesting. The warrior leaps toward him to attack, and he acknowledges the dignity of a Class 6 champion. The two clash in a powerful attack, creating a massive explosion of bluish energy in the hallway. After the initial impact, the large bear stands his ground, ready for her next move. The fighter wastes no time and advances again, sword in hand, to continue the attack. With a look of pure determination on her face, she prepares to deliver another blow. The bear warrior manages to dodge the attack and readies a powerful punch to counter. Their weapons meet once more in a violent collision that generates another blast of energy. Anton's eye is completely focused on the battle, analyzing his opponent's every move with precision. With an impressive move, he creates several afterimages of himself and attacks the woman from above. The fighter is hit head-on by the blow, and a large amount of blue energy erupts. Even as she's thrown back, she recovers in midair and prepares a swift and precise counter-attack. With her sword raised, Alesia summons multiple shards of ice and points them at her opponent. She then launches all the ice shards at high speed toward the bear to finish him off. With a heavy stomp on the ground, Anton prepares to continue the fight against his opponent. The bear is completely focused on the combat, showing his determination to win this battle. The two continue to fight fiercely, exchanging swift and powerful blows in the middle of the hallway. The white-haired woman doesn't back down and maintains her attack with a serious, focused expression. She launches herself into the air, preparing a downward strike with all her might. The bear warrior admits she's faster and flashier, but decides the warm-up is over. With that, he activates his earth attribute, and multiple arms sprout from his body to fight. The fighter remembers the rumors about a prisoner who wields multiple weapons. The master of arms, Anton, now with 4 arms and several weapons, says it's his turn to attack with everything he's got. He then leaps toward her, weapons in hand, ready to deliver a powerful blow. With a fierce look, he bares his teeth and prepares to show his true strength. Alizea watches her opponent's attack approach with a sharp, calculating gaze. Suddenly, a voice orders them to stop, and tentacles of dark energy emerge and restrain them both. The possessed young man appears, his red eyes glowing, and commands them to stop fighting now. The tentacles tighten around them, preventing them from continuing the battle that was underway. The young man approaches and says Tallman warned them not to cause trouble, and he doesn't want them to fight. Anton apologizes, saying the woman attacked him first, and she defends herself, saying it was just a warning. Argel questions why they are fighting since they are both his friends, but they don't seem to agree. Alizea comments that her master hasn't changed a bit, and still has the same attitude as always. The old man says, Alice came to visit but didn't call him master, which clearly annoys Alicea. The young man comments that it's been a while since they last saw each other in person. With a confident smile, Alizea introduces herself to her master, who now possesses the young man's body. Overjoyed, she says it's been a long time and asks how he's been since they last met. He says he heard she became an arena champion, but questions what she's doing here, so far from her post. The woman replies that she heard her master was here and made a deal with Tallman to be able to see him. He warns her not to take risks just to see him, but she says she's never lost a fight. Anton remarks that the master was a Class 1 prisoner, and that his own low rank is irrelevant. Suddenly, Tallman interrupts them and tells the old man to leave, but the possessed boy refuses the order. He then invites the two to come with him, as he wants to show them something and introduce them to some people. In a control room, Tallman watches the 3 walk away on camera and complains about Alizea. The guard says she promised a quick meeting, but this was turning out differently than planned. The young man leads them to a nuclear power plant, where all of Solitude's electricity is generated. The place is impressive, and he says that anyone who comes to the arena should see this place at least once. Next, they go to a water purification center, where seawater is turned into drinking water. The possessed young man says the next place has something very interesting, and tells the bear to stay close. Behind laser grids, various strange and terrifying monsters watch them pass by. There are creatures of all shapes and sizes, from giant lizards to beings with multiple eyes. Anton realizes it's a breeding facility, and that it looks like a monster zoo. Argel explains that this is where all the monsters captured during the liberation are kept, and the government allows it. They arrive at a door, and the young man identifies himself as Argel, and someone replies that he's right on time. They enter a laboratory filled with tanks containing strange creatures being kept in capsules. A woman in a lab coat and sandals approaches and says she was just about to contact them. She thanks them for coming and asks if the other people there can also hear what she has to say. Alizea thinks that her master's destiny was always this place, and the young man tells the woman to speak. The scientist then begins to explain the results of old Argel's health check, up to everyone. This is Tailrun, a Class 7 life sciences clerk, and she begins the presentation. She shows graphs and data on the old man's health, and says it's a miracle he's still alive. The woman warns that his body is no different from a zombie's, and that she can't stop its collapse. Anton is shocked and asks what she means by his master's body collapsing. The scientist reveals that the cause isn't aging, but the possessions he's been performing. Anton realizes that every time his master possessed his body, he was draining his own life force. Desperate, he asks if there's a way to restore his master's body and save him. Tailrun says there is a pill that can stop the collapse and sustain his life somehow. She then asks the possessed young man if he got the medicine, and he says Bemlio will give it to him. The bear wants to know how to get this pill, but the woman reveals that the materials cost as much as an entire planet. He is shocked by the absurd price, but Alizia confirms that what the scientist said is true. The group falls silent for a moment, processing the shocking information about the medicine's cost. The young man then asks to speak with Tailrun alone, and tells the other two to leave the room for a moment. Anton and Alizia exit the lab, leaving the young man and the scientist alone to talk. Outside, the woman asks if the bear already knew about all of this, and he replies that he didn't. With tears in her eyes, Alizia asks the bear to stop calling her that, as she doesn't like it. Anton tells her to pull herself together, so the master doesn't end up in trouble because of her. Inside the lab, the possessed young man and the scientist continue their private, serious conversation. He asks about the situation outside, and she says the Constellation cults are the problem. The woman reveals that their master is trying to contain them, but seems to be reaching his limit. Tailrun suggests they stop storing merchandise, and the young man says that was the plan all along. He doesn't like the idea of the medicine being free, because he knows a businessman never gives anything away for free. Argel understands that accepting something for free from that man means putting himself in his hands. The old man in the boy's body refuses the free medicine, and the scientist finds his stubbornness amusing. The woman then reveals that Alicia's market value has skyrocketed lately. Most of the money she earns is to buy the medicine, and she's already managed to get 2 pills. If a Class 6 champion were to become merchandise, she'd be sold to the wealthy across the universe. With that, she could escape solitude, but she chooses to stay here in prison for one single reason. She does all of this just for him, her beloved master who saved her and trained her to be strong. The old man says it's unnecessary, but the scientist comments that Alizia would be disappointed to hear that. Tailrun then reveals the truth she couldn't say in front of the other prisoners. The time the medicine can sustain him is running out, and he'll have no way to stay alive. The possessed young man says he already sensed it and thanks her for the warning, but says he'll handle the situation. He just wants to know how much time he has left so he can prepare for what's to come. With a smile on her face, the scientist reveals that he only has 6 months to live. With a red aura surrounding him, the scientist wonders if his spirit will overcome his body and endure for the 2-year goal. After chatting with the scientist, the trio leaves the lab, with the bear lugging the young guy's body around like a sack of potatoes. The old man, currently piloting the kid's body, says they need to head back, and asks them to take good care of his original vessel. Alizia goes quiet for a second, looking like she's deep in thought, processing the craziness that just went down and figuring out her next move. Then she drops a bombshell declaring she's gonna challenge the Class 7 title, and Anton is totally floored by her guts. The bear asks how to get the medicine, and the answer is that the materials cost about as much as a whole planet. He's stunned by the insane price tag, but the warrior confirms that the scientist wasn't pulling his leg. It's the truth. The possessed kid turns around and asks if she's really risking her neck just for a payday. She claims she's also eyeing that Class 7 spot and won't lose, but he warns her she won't walk away without a scratch. Alizia stares him down with pure determination, and the kid realizes she's too stubborn to quit even if he begged her. Then she throws down the gauntlet, telling him that when she returns to the arena, he better be a Class 7 champion too. With that, the deal is sealed, and they turn to leave while the warrior bows in farewell. Watching them walk away, the girl promises herself she'll protect her master no matter the cost. 6 days fly by, and we see Anton and the kid standing in front of a massive red door in solitary confinement. Right then, the door creaks open, revealing a barefoot prisoner dragging shackles on his ankles. It's old man Argel in his original body, stepping out of the cell with an aura so intense you could cut it with a knife. Anton greets him, and the master says it was just a leisurely stroll in another body, no sweat at all. Meanwhile, the blonde kid, who was out cold on the floor, finally seems to be rebooting. Zero starts crying without realizing it, because he's finally feeling something again after ages of numbness. Spending all that time in the dark feeling absolutely nothing was endless torture for the poor guy. Slowly regaining consciousness, the first thing he spots is the massive bear staring right at him. Zero wakes up and nearly jumps out of his skin, seeing a giant bear right in his face, letting out a terrified scream. Arjul chills the kid out, saying not to panic because Anton is a buddy he called over, leaving Zero totally confused. The elder explains that some friends seem cold, but are warm on the inside, and others just look like beers. The young guy stares at the master, trying to piece together what on earth is happening around him. Arjul kneels in front of the kid and tells him he might be confused, but he needs to listen up real close. At that moment, the legendary prisoner reveals that the big release event is kicking off soon. He explains it's a system, kinda like the summoning, and release stuff the kid has dealt with before. The old man advises him to stay sharp to survive, moving only during the day and never at night. Zero stays quiet for a sec, recalling that the master had mentioned something like this before. In his head, he replays the moment the elder talked about it, and wonders what the heck it all meant. Suddenly, a new figure approaches and greets the prisoner, calling him Master. The white-haired man acknowledges the visitor, saying, "You made it," while young Zero is still lost in the sauce. The figure steps out, revealing himself as a goblin-like creature who introduces himself as Jacob. Jacob says he was sent by Bemlio and shows off the medicine he snagged. 3 pills in total. He congratulates the master on finishing solitary and warns that the release starts in exactly 1 hour. The old man grabs one of the pills, while watching the little messenger skedaddle. Without hesitating, the legendary prisoner pops the little tablet into his mouth. As soon as he swallows it, a powerful purple aura explodes from his body, showing the meds kicking in. He clenches his fist, feeling the new strength coursing through his veins, as energy continues to radiate. Anton asks what his master is thinking, and he replies that this is the very last of the stash. Anton asks why he can't relax without wrecking his body, but the elder says that's a tough ask in solitude. The bear suggests they focus on the release and promises he'll find his master wherever he lands. Then he nervously corrects himself, saying he needs to gather some honey first before heading out, trying to make excuses. He asks if the master likes honey too, and Arjul notes that the bear is a terrible liar. After the small talk, the 3 stand in silence, waiting for the release event to begin. Then the legendary prisoner clenches his fists and, with a serious and confident look, declares he's ready. The master says he's gonna eliminate the elements threatening his children, while Anton tells Zero to remember those words. Unlike the past, where he was passive and avoided fights, the fugitive life is finally over. Taking down his enemies one by one is gonna be a pretty interesting hobby for him from now on. Suddenly, an intense red light wraps around the trio, signaling the release process has officially started. Zero looks up, totally spooked and confused by the flashing red lights all around him. Eyes wide open, he wonders what's happening as he gets beamed up to another location. He feels the sunlight stinging his skin a bit and realizes he's not in the prison anymore. The sound of leaves rustling in the wind echoes everywhere, confirming he's smack in the middle of a forest. The kid finds himself completely alone in a dense, unknown jungle, not having a clue what to do. The prison on planet Krazeman doesn't just lock people up, it has a whole continent dedicated to releasing them. Prisoners are let loose on this continent for 1 month and have to fight tooth and nail to survive. The release system was created with a single goal: to make the prisoners' lives a living nightmare. If the prison hallways had ghosts, out here there are natives ready to jump you. Zero goes on high alert when he sees something rushing toward him. Suddenly, Zero gets jumped by natives and, without missing a beat, prepares to counter the sneak attack. He unleashes a massive burst of green energy, hitting the enemies with incredible force. Even using his attribute, he gets tagged and can't dodge, wondering where that hot power came from. The kid realizes he's dealing with fire attribute users as an explosion goes off. Deciding to stop overthinking, he bares his teeth in anger. The number 4 on his back is revealed, and he decides to laser focus on the enemy in front of him. Surrounded by a green aura, the young prisoner gets ready to fight with everything he's got. Thus, Zero, the lycanthrope prisoner of Class 4, prepares to show off his true power. Elsewhere, a beam of red light shines in the middle of a valley, acting like a beacon. A man runs desperately toward the red light through the dense forest. He's running scared because a pack of other prisoners is chasing him relentlessly. The fugitive looks back in terror, knowing that if he gets caught, it's curtains for him. A crowd of prisoners keeps up the chase, showing they aren't giving up anytime soon. The leader of the group yells for him to accept his fate and stop running away. He claims the guy's choice will save the lives of many other prisoners, but the fugitive refuses to stop because he knows getting caught means losing his life instantly. desperate, and sweating bullets. He wonders why he's stuck in this terrible situation. With no other option, he activates his light attribute, prepping a powerful counterattack. The man creates a chain of photons and hurls it at his pursuers. The attack smacks one of the men, knocking him to the ground. The chasers yell for the man to stop fighting and just accept his end without any more fuss. Then the fugitive switches it up, activating his dark attribute to create shadow armor for defense. Shadowy energy wraps completely around him as he braces for the incoming attacks. The armor forms around his body, but enemy attacks are already slamming into it hard. Even while he's down, the men are surprised to see their weapons can't pierce his defense. Suddenly, a leader appears and yells for everyone to freeze and get into battle positions. He points at a group of masked, hooded figures, revealing their demon worshippers. One of the worshippers says they can't let the opponent kick the bucket under any circumstances. The demon worshippers watch the scene with their red eyes glowing intensely. The prisoners who are chasing him now get ready to scrap with the new threat. The leader yells to protect the fugitive, but the worshippers order his immediate elimination. Amidst the chaos, Argel watches the battle from atop a rock, analyzing the situation. He turns to Anton and orders him to save the man, and the bear agrees instantly. Wasting no time, Anton leaps into the middle of the battle, hammer in hand, ready to smash. He hits the ground with devastating force, creating a huge explosion that sends everyone flying. The bear starts attacking the demon worshippers, who are shocked by his crushing strength. Anton lets out a furious roar, showing off his savagery and overwhelming combat power. Like a total wild beast, he charges the enemies without giving them a chance to defend. With a precise strike, he hits one of the worshippers, who has zero chance of escaping. The bear's attack is so powerful that the enemy basically disintegrates on impact. What followed was a massacre so one-sided you couldn't even call it a fight. After the battle, Argel and Anton stroll calmly through the forest toward their next destination. They move forward together, with the bear always alert at his side to protect his master from any danger. The saved prisoners cheer happily, thanking the duo for the unexpected help. Their leader approaches Argel and says that, as always, he's carrying a heavy burden. This is Barora Hedora, a member of the class 6 Light Constellation, and he says he just likes to help. The elder warns him about taking on more responsibilities than he can handle, saying it's not a great idea. Smiling, Barora thanks the old man for the words and promises to keep them in his heart. Argel watches him in silence, seeming to ponder that man's choices and fate. Then he notices the captured man on the ground and asks if Barora was snagging an adversary. Adversaries are prisoners with a red mark on their forehead that appear after the release. If an adversary isn't defeated in 2 days, a giant monster gets summoned into the jungle. To avoid a massacre, prisoners hunt down and try to eliminate the adversary as fast as possible. But the demon worshippers have other plans because they need the energy from the bodies. The adversary is a solitude system designed to divide prisoners and make them fight each other. This creates 2 sides, those who want to eliminate the adversary and those who want to protect him. Argel and Anton leave the scene, putting the chaos behind them as they continue their journey. Anton asks if Barora is an acquaintance of his master, and he confirms it. The elder says Barora is an idealist, trying to carry the weight of every prisoner's life. Even if he stops the monster summoning, Solitude will always find new ways to torment them. The master observes the situation, and Anton asks if another adversary has popped up in the jungle. They look at a pillar of red light in the distance, and the elder confirms there's no doubt about it. While running, Argel asks Anton if he's ever been an adversary, and the bear replies he was, twice. He explains that the monster's strength is proportional to the adversary's class, and that a giant monster hunted him. The bear says he's not ashamed of surviving as an adversary back then. The master fully agrees with the words of his faithful battle companion. Anton then asks if the elder has ever been an adversary, and he says yes, but today he's worried. The bear gets anxious at his master's words, and the old man seems to confirm his suspicions. At that moment, they pick up the pace, running as fast as they can toward the red signal. When they get there, they find Ciro, who calls out to them, surprised to see them. Anton is shocked and starts sweating bullets, realizing the terrible mess the kid is in. The boy points to his own face and says something weird appeared as a red mark glows. The legendary prisoner stares him with a dead serious look, confirming what he already suspected. With the red mark on his face, it's clear that young Ciro has become the jungle's new adversary. It all starts at the Barula Group's temporary base, a cabin in the middle of a very misty forest. Inside, a man runs in desperately calling for the sage while others are lying there wounded. He then reports that the adversary has reached their base, which leaves the leader completely shocked. With this news, the other prisoners get excited because now they can stop the monster's arrival. Suddenly, they gather in a formation with a hexagonal glow on the ground, ready for combat. The leader, Barula, calls for silence and tells the elder that he's sorry, but circumstances are forcing them to act. Then the old warrior appears and reveals that this time, the adversary is actually his ally, which is why he came there. With a serious look, the white-haired man warns that anyone, even Barula, will be in trouble. He then warns that whoever touches the boy will end up in a bad way, and the leader wonders what their relationship is. Barula starts to break into a cold sweat, realizing he's at a very complicated crossroads now. The leader knows that if the monster is summoned, his men will lose their lives, but fighting the elder means certain defeat. He understands that the old warrior is giving them a chance to resolve the situation without a fight. With that in mind, Barula turns to the group and proposes a solution to the standoff they're facing. The group leader takes on a serious expression and says he wishes to negotiate with the old prisoner. The elder seems surprised by the proposal, and the man confirms he wants to strike a deal with him. Barula explains that if nothing is done, the boy's monster will be summoned tomorrow, causing total devastation. He then suggests that if the adversary needs to live, they could hunt the giant monster together. With the proposal on the table, the leader waits anxiously for the legendary prisoner's response. He realizes this is the elder showing them mercy, because if they tried to fight, they would all be wiped out. In the end, even if they waited, the monster would be defeated by the old warrior anyway. Barula then understands that the elder brought the adversary to show his men an important lesson. He wanted to teach them that, besides the fear of the monster, the courage to fight for survival was necessary. The leader bows in respect and says the old warrior showed them consideration because they were his prisoners. His men doubt they can beat the monster, but the elder reminds Barula about their agreement. The white-haired prisoner then asks what he can offer in exchange for their help. With his hand over his heart, the group leader offers his own life as part of the payment. His followers become desperate at the decision and plead with the sage not to sacrifice himself. But he explains there's nothing to fear if everyone has the determination to survive. The elder is impressed by the attitude and warns that the summoning will happen at noon tomorrow. He then tells the leader to rest until then and turns to leave with his companions. Sir feels guilty, but Anton comforts him, telling him not to worry and to just focus on surviving. The blonde-haired youth then takes on a serious and determined expression. From the top of a cliff, the trio watches Barula's group gathering down below in the forest. The leader says they're ready, and the old warrior warns that 4 people are enough for the fight. Barula is surprised and questions if a group of only 4 people wouldn't be far too small. The elder explains that they don't know the monster's traits, and more people might just get in the way. Barula agrees, noticing the elder's seriousness, which makes him feel a bit more at ease. Thus, the team for the monster hunt was practically decided between the 2 groups. A new member is revealed, a Class 4 pure blood werewolf named Cero. The leader of the other group is also introduced as Barula Hedora, a Class 6 prisoner. The giant bear is introduced as Anton, the Class 6 master of weapons, and the old warrior is Argel Rastos, a Class 1 prisoner. Suddenly, a red energy begins to swirl around Cero. This energy then shoots up into the sky, creating a red trail through the forest. High above, it condenses into a portal, signaling the start of a summoning. These summonings existed only to torment dozens or hundreds of prisoners, but this time, the target was thousands or even more prisoners, showing the scale of the danger. With a massive impact, a gigantic creature lands in front of the group. The monster has a terrifying appearance, looking like a giant beetle with purple armor. Its red eyes glow and it roars, baring its sharp fangs at the warriors. Barula's men panic and regret not eliminating the adversary sooner. Barula then clasps his hands and begins to pray, activating his light attribute for the battle. He creates a light shield called the Lumen Shield to protect everyone from the first attack. With his blade in hand, the old warrior prepares himself and commands the start of the attack. With that, the 4 heroes leap toward the giant monster to begin the battle. Anton lands a powerful blow with his axe on the creature's head, while the others attack. The other prisoners watch the fight from a distance, completely shocked by the insane scene. Barula once again activates his light attribute, concentrating a massive amount of energy in his hands. He launches a technique called the Solar Trap, binding the monster with rings of light. Anton then uses his Earth attribute, covering his fist in rocks for a powerful strike. With his rocky fist, he launches the Great Earthquake Rod, a blow of pure strength. The impact of the attack kicks up a cloud of dust and debris throughout the forest. Even so, the bear warrior is thrown backward by the force of the collision while the elder watches. Anton lands on the ground with difficulty and can't believe what just happened. The giant creature remains unharmed, as the powerful attack caused absolutely 0 damage. It is then revealed that the monster's creator is Tailrun, a genius scientist in gene splicing. A voice praises her for creating yet another incredible monster while the creature attacks the bear. Back in the fight, the old warrior asks Zero if he has understood the monster's power yet. He comments that the creature's speed and instincts are first class and very dangerous. With his blade in hand, the elder prepares himself and declares that the hunt is finally about to begin. The old warrior then leaps toward the creature, ready to test his skills in combat. He feels a tingling in his fingers and realizes it's a defense specialist, but he already has a plan. Suddenly, a splash of red liquid flies through the air, showing that a blow has hit its mark. The giant bear groans in pain, revealing that he was the one who took damage from the attack. Anton says he now understands the enemy's power level. He then reveals that the monster is Class 7 in its initial power stage. The creature is far too fast, and its skin is too tough for Anton's attacks. The good thing is that the bear realizes he's not fighting this difficult battle alone. Barula joins him, showing that the alliance between the groups will work in the fight. Meanwhile, the elder attacks from a distance, creating an explosion to distract the monster. The old warrior then makes a hand sign, preparing to use a new technique. He warns Zero that he's going to borrow his body for a while for the upcoming battle. With that, the elder spirit merges with the young man's, releasing a powerful purple energy. Zero then transforms into a lycanthrope, a giant werewolf with golden fur and red eyes. In his new form, he joins the fight, sprinting toward the monster with incredible speed. The ground shakes with every step the lycanthrope takes, showing the strength of his new transformation. Anton understands his master's order and says it's time to end the fight once and for all. The elder asks Barula for a blessing to increase their reaction speed in battle. The group leader then uses his light attribute, creating a golden energy in his hands. He launches a second glimpse, strengthening his allies for the final attack against the monster. Barula's blessing creates a massive explosion of light, covering the entire battlefield. The elder orders them to keep attacking, so the monster gets used to their blows. Anton obeys and moves forward with his axe, ready to deliver another powerful strike. The lycanthrope also attacks with his claws, leaving a trail of golden light wherever he goes. The giant monster watches the attacks, its red eyes glowing with contained fury. The werewolf leaps over the creature, dodging its attacks with agility and precision. Anton realizes he needs to use a special skill to win and prepares for the attack. Barula runs alongside them, ready to provide support with his light and healing abilities. A massive explosion of energy occurs, showing the intensity of the ongoing combat. The group leader then warns the elder that they need to finish the fight as quickly as possible. Barula then uses a stronger version of his ability, the double solar trap. The battle gets serious, and the lycanthrope runs alongside the bear, both ready to strike. The elder says it's Anton's turn, and the bear begins to charge toward the monster. With a confident smile, Anton prepares to show his true strength and skill. The monster attacks, but Anton manages to dodge, showing his agility despite his size. The bear warrior is happy to be able to fight alongside his master, whom he respects so much. He says he will learn a lot from this fight, and prepares to use his earth attribute. With the earth domain technique, he creates giant stone hands that emerge from the ground. The earth hands grab the monster, but it breaks free with a powerful beam of blue energy. The creature then charges at Anton, who braces for the impact of the imminent attack. The bear notices that his opponent is very excited for the fight, even though it's an artificial being. The giant creature seems to have a will of its own to fight, which surprises the bear. With that, Anton uses his earth attribute once more to prepare for the next attack. He launches the earth shackles, binding the creature with chains of stone and earth. Barula's men panic and say that earth won't hold a giant monster, but Anton explains that his technique turns the enemy's attribute into earth for a short time. With the monster immobilized, the master will have the chance to deliver the final blow and win. Barula then decides to use all his energy and send his remaining blessings to the elder. He launches Radiant Force, a powerful beam of light that strengthens the lycanthrope. The leader realizes that the elder judged the monster's attribute to be an electric type. The elder explains that lightning is grounded by the earth, and the earth, in turn, is cut by the wind. With that, the lycanthrope uses his wind attribute, preparing a powerful attack against the creature. He then launches the wolf claws technique, a devastating blow that hits the monster's head dead center. The impact of the attack is brutal, and the creature's blood splashes everywhere from the force of the blow. The monster recoils with its head wounded, showing the massive damage the werewolf's attack caused. At that moment, Anton seizes the chance and grabs the creature from behind, lifting it into the air with force. Barula then uses his ability, channeling golden light energy through the ground. With the boost, the lycanthrope is launched high into the air, ready to deliver the finishing blow. The old warrior praises the good work, while the werewolf's hand prepares for the final strike. The three warriors combine their attacks, surrounding the monster with rings of light and pure force. The elder speaks about a child whose purpose was decided from birth, and the wolf attacks, with the monster's head destroyed. The old warrior says the creature can finally rest. The lycanthrope watches the lifeless body of the giant creature fall to the ground after the intense battle. From afar, the other prisoners celebrate the victory, relieved to have survived the monster. They remember how hard it was to survive in solitude, having to eat insects just to stay alive. Not knowing when they might pass away, Anton looks at the sky, exhausted but satisfied with the victory. Barula realizes that they now have hope of surviving even a giant monster. With the victory, a small flame of hope was lit in the hearts of over 100 people. And all of this was thanks to a single elderly prisoner who guided them to victory in battle. The next day, at Barula's temporary base, the atmosphere is one of relief and renewed hope. The old warrior watches Barula's camp, where the prisoners are training and resting. Barula comments that the number of people following him keeps growing because of the rumors. Then the elder surprises the leader by saying that from that point on, they will go their separate ways. Barula wonders what he should do, since he had offered his own life as part of the deal. The white-haired prisoner then reminds him that they made a deal to resolve the situation. With the shadows of monsters in the background, the elder prepares to give the leader new instructions. He tells Barula to stay nearby, gathering and healing prisoners so that his power increases. Meanwhile, the old warrior will continue walking through the forest and taking care of the giant monsters. Barula understands the plan and reflects that his life would be a very small price for all of that. The elder also says that with the weaker prisoners surviving, Barula will feel more at peace. With that, the leader thanks him and bows, but the old warrior reveals he still has one more request. He then asks Barula to find a dangerous man named Ab, which makes the leader tense up. Barula is confused, and the elder explains that Aub is a fanatic who cruelly eliminates prisoners. Even though he's reluctant, the leader agrees to the request, and the old warrior tells him to value his life. Barula declares that his life no longer belongs to him, and at that moment, Anton appears behind him. The giant bear warns him not to get carried away, because his life and soul now belong to the master. With everything settled, the trio prepares to leave, believing he will return soon. The group leader watches them walk away. He thinks to himself that he will survive there in his own way, following what he has learned. Later, the elder and Anton observe a strange green energy swirling in the middle of the field. Suddenly, a masked native charges forward with his spear in hand, ready to attack. But the blonde-haired youth is not intimidated and prepares for combat with a serious look. With his wind attribute, he moves quickly and attacks several natives at the same time. The young man reflects that he's already quite used to using his attributes in battle. Because of this, he can recognize the enemies' movements coming from several different angles. This allows him to react quickly and counter-attack even before being hit by the blows. Even so, he thinks that if he could control his attribute with more precision, he would be even stronger. That way, he could move much faster and even leave after images behind. He remembers how the guard Taiji did exactly that when she fought him before. Inspired by that memory, the young man releases a powerful wind attack from top to bottom. The attack is so strong that it defeats the native and destroys the ground around him. Seeing the end of the fight, the old warrior approaches his disciple with a calm expression. The boy then says confidently that he can now handle the natives on his own. The master praises his growth, but warns him not to lower his guard until he reaches Class 6. Then the elder makes a strange sound, appearing to sense something different in the air. He says that from today on, they will run without rest, because the oxygen there is good for training. The master also reveals that they are going to search for and hunt all the giant monsters in that area. The young man is shocked by the news, unable to believe they are going to hunt giant monsters. The old man explains that this is training, but it's also to protect Barula's followers. Later that night, the young man meditates by a campfire while Anton rests nearby. The elder approaches the young man and tells him to sleep if he's tired, but the boy refuses the offer. With his head down, the boy remains silent for a moment, appearing to be very deep in thought. At that point, he reflects that the more time he spends with the master, the more incredible he seems to be. The old warrior then tells the youth not to worry, because in time, he will understand everything. With a kind gesture, he pats the boy's head and tells him to get plenty of sleep so he can grow. The scene then shifts to a stunning view of the universe with colorful stars and nebulae. Back in the forest, the elder suddenly becomes alert, sensing that something or someone is approaching. He then turns to his companions and says his guest has arrived and that he's going to meet him. With that, the white-haired prisoner walks alone toward a dark and misty area. He then arrives at a strange place where a blonde-haired man awaits him, sitting at a table. The man thanks the elder for accepting the invitation and invites him to sit down and talk. It is then revealed that this man is Endoras, the king of vampires and a Class 8 prisoner. The vampire king then offers some tea he brought from outside Solitude and guarantees it isn't poisoned. The elder praises the aroma of the drink, but cuts the conversation short and asks the reason for the meeting. With a serious and piercing gaze, the king of vampires stares at the old warrior, ready to reveal his plan. He then reveals that the demon worshippers are preparing the festival of 10,000 banners. They plan to use a cursed totem to gather 10,000 souls and offer them up to gain more power. Endoras warns that because of this, Darkus could soon become an apostle, which would be a huge problem. An apostle is an agent of the empty shadow seats, beings that are extremely powerful and dangerous. The vampire king finishes by saying that even if they can't be seen, it doesn't mean they don't exist. The vampire king then says he wants to help him take down Darkus, because facing an apostle would be dangerous. The old warrior remains silent for a moment, simply observing the vampire king's proposal. The elder then begins to laugh, finding the word apostle used by the vampire king quite funny. His laughter becomes more intense, and the vampire king starts to break into a cold sweat. Not understanding his reaction, the king of vampires is shocked, wondering if what he is seeing and hearing is real. With a wide and sinister smile, the old warrior says that isn't how someone becomes an apostle. His face becomes even more terrifying, with veins bulging in a look of pure insanity. The vampire then asks why he is laughing and how someone truly becomes an apostle. The elder remains silent with his head down, appearing to be thinking about his answer. Endoras realizes that the elder knows something about the apostles, but he doesn't seem to want to talk about it. The old warrior then says that if the vampire is telling this story, he must have broken ties with Darkus. With that, the elder accepts the help and reveals he plans to use this chance to wipe out the worshippers. The vampire king then asks what he gets in return, and the elder replies that he will let him live. The elder repeats the offer, saying he could eliminate him right now if he wanted to, but he won't. Endoras becomes tense and realizes there was never any room for negotiation from the start of the conversation. He understands that his only choice is to accept the deal, and says that from now on, he's counting on the elder. The old warrior then stands up and says the deal is done, leaving the details for later. A few days later, inside the arena's creation facility, we see several monsters in capsules. A scientist in sandals walks through the lab, observing the experiments in progress. She approaches a colleague and asks how things are going, and he says everything is running smoothly in the jungle. The Class 7 scientist, Tailrun, seems to notice something strange in the data on the screen in front of her. She then comments to her colleague that the giant monster to be summoned tomorrow won't be very much fun. The man gets nervous at what she says, but the scientist just smiles and says it needs to be fun. As the scene shifts to a misty forest, we see that some time has passed since the last battle. The blonde-haired youth complains that his whole body hurts, so much it feels like it's going to fall apart. But he understands that this is natural, since they just captured a giant monster. The elder praises the boy's growth, and Anton agrees, saying he is evolving very quickly. The young man thinks that they've already defeated 8 monsters, but he doesn't know how much longer they'll keep hunting. He can even understand the bear, but he wonders how the old man can run so much at his advanced age. Suddenly, the young man's eyes widen as he notices something strange happening to his master. The giant bear then shouts in desperation, pointing to the old warrior's forehead in front of him. At that moment, red and glowing marks begin to appear on the older prisoner's face. These marks form a strange pattern, and it's revealed that the adversary's mark is appearing. Back in the lab, the scientists observe a photo of the elder with the same marks on his face. The woman explains that he is special, and that's why it would be boring to send a common monster after him. She says she created something special for the old man, and that it will be worth watching. The scene then takes us to noon, on the 7th day of liberation in that same forest. Suddenly, a massive red energy appears in the sky, indicating that the giant monster has been summoned. This energy crashes into the forest floor, causing a gigantic and terrifying explosion. The trio watches the summoning, and it's explained that since the elder was the adversary, no one knew what would come. Even Anton grips his weapon tightly, appearing very tense at the situation unfolding. The boy remembers that his monster was already strong and imagines how powerful the elders will be. With that, the trio retreats in unison, and the young man wonders how strong the creature really is. The elder is also surprised by what he sees, with a shocked expression on his face. Then an immense force throws them backward, showing the great power of the summoning. The boy lands on the ground and watches a dark figure slowly emerging from the dust. He is completely shocked and begins to break into a cold sweat as he recognizes the silhouette in front of him. Anton becomes furious with the guards, and the old warrior asks what is happening to him. At that, we see the creature's feet floating in the air without touching the forest floor. It is revealed that the monster looks exactly like their master, which shocks everyone. The bio monster's name is Seven, a malicious copy of the older prisoner. The bear becomes possessed with rage and shouts that they cannot insult his master that way. With his axe in flames, he charges forward, but the monster defends itself with ease. The creature then counter-attacks with a powerful blow that throws the bear far away. The malicious clone maintains a calm expression, as if it had made no effort at all. Then it advances again toward the bear warrior, continuing its relentless attack. Anton can't defend himself and ends up taking a powerful blow right to the chest. The impact is so strong that the big guy is launched into the air without any chance to react. The creature then appears above him and hits him with a precise strike in the middle of his chest. With a cold and calculating gaze, the clone watches its opponent falling to the forest floor. Now the malicious clone charges toward the blonde-haired youth, who has no chance to fight back. The young man is completely shocked by the speed and strength of the enemy's attack in front of him. With a powerful blow, the boy is launched into the air, unable to defend himself against the purple energy. Bleeding, the young man notices something terrible about that mysterious creature's fighting style. The bear gets up and explains that the monster has the exact same fighting style as their master. He understands that the guards used recordings of the elders' fights to create that clone. With that, the creature multiplies and attacks both warriors at the same time with everything it has. The clones seem perfectly coordinated and don't give any opening for a counterattack. A massive cloud of dust rises from the force of the clones' combined attacks. The bear and the youth are thrown backward by the force of the explosion, unable to react. The real elder then praises Tailrun for creating such an incredible monster for him. He says she went to the trouble of preparing all that just for him, and that he's going to fight. He says this is going to make things much more fun from now on. At that, the old warrior breaks his handcuffs and prepares to finally enter the battle. They block half of the movement and attributes of whoever wears them at all times in prison. But if a prisoner manages to remove them, their combat power increases more than twofold. The elder then tells his companions to fall back because he is going to fight the clone alone. With a purple aura surrounding him, the old warrior charges at his malicious clone. The battle begins with the two of them clashing at an absurd speed, exchanging blows with their blades. They are so fast that the fight becomes just a blur of movement and sparks in the air. Then a massive explosion of purple energy occurs when their weapons meet. The creature tries a kick, but the older prisoner manages to dodge the attack just in time. With a serious look, the elder analyzes his malicious clone's movements during the combat. The fight intensifies, and we see several purple trails showing the insane exchange of blows between them. It is revealed that the attack range of their weapons is only about 5 feet away. Even so, dozens of blows are exchanged in a matter of seconds in that intense battle. The paths of the 12-inch blades cross so many times that it's impossible to count. With the exchange of blows being so fast, the two seem to be in a complete and deadly stalemate. Their companions watch, and the bear wonders if the master used the shackles to protect his own body. Anton then admits it's the first time he's seen his master fighting in such a serious way. The malicious clone continues to fight with a cold expression and no emotion on its face. The aerial battle continues, and the two move so fast they seem to be dancing in the sky. The bear then comments that even though he's class 6, he can barely keep up with their movements. In an instant, the creature finds a gap and attacks the old warrior's face directly. With that, the clone lands a powerful punch right in the middle of its original opponent's face. The creature then leaps and prepares for a final blow, while the elder is on the ground. But the old warrior just smiles because, as expected, his clone is indeed very strong. With a quick movement, the elder dodges, and Anton shouts that is his true master.